You should hear now.
Check that. Mark,
Yeah, there it is.
thank you so much. Okay, well done.
Too many left.
Okay, Mark, we've approved an amended agenda that includes a chair report under new business. And so we are at approval of the minutes, and I'm just looking for a mover. Thank you, seconder. Any changes required? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Trustee Carlson?
Thank you. After reviewing the May 26 minutes, I just have a couple follow-up questions. First, I noted there was a question regarding the higher wrestling fees and whether they've been related to students having to practice outside the district. I just wondered if I missed that information or if that's available. And secondly, I wanted to clarify that the Monkey Rebels were asking for support prior to their provincial presentation. I wanted to confirm that they did get a letter, and I wanted to know whether we've heard anything about how the presentation was.
Great. I wonder if the question about wrestling fees can go to Geraldine, Associate Superintendent. Thank you.
Sure. So we are looking into that matter with staff, and we will be able to report back once we have that answer.
Great. Thank you. And I can respond to the Monkey Rebels question. Yes, we did get a letter out to them. It went directly to Angela Jurgensen, and I have not heard how that presentation went. Great.
It went extremely well. The students were well prepared, did a great job, and the panel was very impressed with their presentation. Angela was thrilled with her students, so yeah, it went really well. They're very much appreciating their support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can add to that really quickly, they were feeling very optimistic about the transit ask. The students were afterwards, because I think they were really proud of how that part of the presentation went and how people responded to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Trustee Andres. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is presentations. And our first presentation is from Student Voice. We have Sadie and Kaylee here to present results from their survey. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Cheshin. I'm in grade 11 and I go to NWSS. I'm Sadie Campbell. I'm also in grade 11 and I go to NW. We're super excited to meet with you guys again. Our other executive, Ava, I'm sure you remember, she is away on the that's here today, so I'm sure she will come.
Beautiful. I'm Gary Patter. US, just supporting. There you go.
Okay,
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll be talking about the 3 main things that students focused on this year. So we did our fall survey. We did grade 8 presentations at all 3 middle schools, and then we also had our student symposium. So this year for the fall survey, we started it on December 19th, and then we had it run until the last day of school before winter break. We had 419 responses, which again is not that large a number compared to the school population, but last year the results were around 100 people, so we're having consistent growth with that. We focused on expanding questions surrounding demographics. We started new and more focused advertising methods, which really helped, and we also presented some of this information to both the PAC and staff. Okay, so we're going to go over some of the general questions we have to use some insight. So this question was surrounding mental health, and as you can see, I tried there how students felt that school was affecting their mental health this school year. This is again taken in the fall, and we had students elaborate on what was making them feel this way, specifically negatively was surrounding homework and stress, and some academics. Other students said that academics were affecting their mental health positively because they like being challenged, and students said that they really, really enjoyed it at school. And that was a great positive aspect of their school experience. One of our other questions was
Was that if you were aware of the support that the Wellness Center offered for students. Now, some students did say they were aware of it. Majority of students said that they were aware, but not enough. They didn't know what specific support they had, and other students said that they were not aware at all. We also asked where they get their school information from, and that was pretty split across the board.
This question was surrounding counselors, and how students feel counselors are able to effectively help them. And we had about 40% of students say that they felt that they would help very well with course selection. And then we had scheduling classes, post-graduation guidance, and mental health support. So generally, the less amount of students said that they felt supported with mental health, while most students said that they felt supported with course selection.
Our next question was, do you feel safe at school? Yes, do you feel safe at school? Now, luckily, a majority of students did say that they do feel safe at school. And then we had some written questions asking if you said you feel safe, why? And people said friends, classes that they enjoy, and elective programs, or specific teachers and adults that make them feel safe at school. And then we asked students who said no to also elaborate. And they said that large crowding in the washrooms or hallways make them feel unsafe at school. Violence like fights at school, and then yes, just in general, the washroom was a big thing that students said they had issues with. And then we also asked them to elaborate on programs that make them feel safe or that they enjoy at school, and clubs, performing arts, athletics, IB courses, and languages were the most shared responses.
Yeah, we had a lot of positive feedback on the school program. So this question here to the right was asking students if they felt that there was a more effective form of risk-taking in their school. This is like to hear what students think should have been. And we have a majority of students say that no, they didn't feel like there was a better solution. But the students who said yes, they asked for more enforcement or punishment when students found using vapes, because a lot of students felt that vape detectors would go off and they're going to repercussions. And so they just feel like students that vape detectors should be utilized more, and there should also be additional education and support for students who are struggling with addiction.
Our next questions were about if students thought there needed to be additional support for both 2X LGBTQ students, as well as if there needed to be more support around discrimination, specifically racial discrimination at our school. And you can see that the pie charts were the same for both of those questions. Then we have the last question on our survey was just, do you have any other comments or concerns surrounding life at NWSS? And so you can see we had a lot of different things. So one thing that was talked about frequently was lockdown and safety drills. Students found it concerning the time that it takes to get out of school during the lockdowns. If there was a real emergency, they have concerns around that. And then also with lockdown drills, having to exit a classroom to go into another one, because not all classrooms have blinds or feel like a safe space. So there was just lots of different concerns around the different safety protocols. And then students were searching for more support in clubs. There was a lot of talk about the overpopulation at the school and different areas that affects. Counselors were, again, another big thing that was brought up with the number of counselors and also the amount of responsibilities that counselors take on. Students also really wanted more support with graduation, how to actually get to graduation, but then also what to do after that. And then also discrimination like racism and homophobia. Students want to be seeing that taken more seriously at NWSS. And then also students wanted better advertising. I know the morning announcements are kind of confusing now because of the 5-block schedules. Students also wanted more seating and places to just be at school. And again, this ties back to the overpopulation. Students also were searching for more mental health support. A few students did talk about affordable lunches not being as accessible, and then also more support for ELL students, and then more time in class.
And then this is new from the fall survey, we did a new thing this year where we went and presented to grades the middle schools. This was in early February, and we visited all three middle schools. And it was a really cool opportunity for us, as well as students representing the arts and athletics programs at NDOW. And it gave us the opportunity to give students some perspective of a high schooler. We gave a presentation, and they were able to ask us questions, and we were able to offer our guidance, because we felt it was really important for students to hear from actual high schoolers, not just adults. And it was also a cool opportunity to connect with future students who are coming to NDOW next year, and give them a little bit of a safe space, safe people that they can come to next year.
Most recently, we had our students symposium. We had this in mid-April. We had around 80 participants across the middle school and NWSS. 45 of those participants were from all three middle schools. It was a great opportunity for students to connect and for us to hear directly from students from grade 6 all the way to grade 12. We continued with the same umbrella topics that we had in previous years, which were mental health and wellness, safety, student success, and DEI.
So we decided to summarize some general things that we heard from our discussions with students. This is just feedback that they were giving us in our conversations in our breakout circles. So regarding mental health and wellness, so we heard from students. Regarding counseling and support, there were concerns similar to the survey regarding availability and capacity of the counselors at the school. Students, once again, similar to the survey, were looking for more mental health support. And students were suggesting specific roles for counselors, like having counselors specifically for post-secondary support. Students were also concerned about hygiene, specifically wanting more education on personal care, which I feel like we haven't heard before, so this is interesting. There was also concerns regarding the quality of period products throughout middle schools and high school. And there was a few concerns about the nurse practitioner, the absence in the high school this year, and so there were some asks to bring them up. We also had, we were talking about substance education, sex education, and safety education. Students were wondering if we could have more coverage on prevention and consent. They felt that they were lacking such sex education after grade 6. This is specifically someone from QMS who was saying this. And students from high schoolers were also saying that they felt that there was a general lack of sex education when they got to high school. People were also concerned about the coverage on addiction and drug use in high school because it's such a prevalent problem for teens. And also transit safety education. A lot of students transit to school, and some students were concerned regarding people being aware of how to be safe on public transit. And then there were a few concerns about workload, just generally feeling overwhelmed, having an effective sleep schedule, specifically with the 5-block schedule, and trouble balancing.
Our next topic that we're summarizing was safety. So bathrooms were talked about across all three middle schools and the high schools. Crowding, the cleanliness of them, fake detectors, vaping being an issue again through all the middle schools and the high schools. Yeah, it was just a very it was really interesting to see all these different ages connect on the same issue happening through a lot of schools in our district. And then the hallways were talked about a lot, again, just crowding, overpopulation, it being hard to get to classes, and then again, the cleanliness of the hallways. Just like our survey, safety drills were brought up again a lot during the safety breakout group. So there was, again, concern about effectiveness, the speed in which it happens, how it's organized, not knowing where to go on the field to find your teacher at NWSS during a fire drill, and then again, having only every other classroom be a safe classroom for lockdown students. Found it very alarming that they would have to, if there was an active lockdown, leave their classroom to enter a different one to go into lockdown. And then at the middle schools, it was brought up a lot more about bullying and having resources to talk to people about that. And specifically, a lot of students brought up having anonymous reporting if they were struggling.
In our student success breakout group, we talked about counselors again, similar to the mental health section, just more support regarding these kinds of post-secondary. Again, overcrowding class sizes, people were looking for some more one-on-one support for teachers because they felt that they were lacking that due to the large class sizes, and they were concerned about limiting online classes. So I was going to those. There were concerns from QMS kids about transportation, specifically about QMS bus, which I believe is canceled. Because a lot of kids rely on it to get to school, and it makes it a lot more difficult for them to get to school because of this class cancellation. And then again, technology, trouble with slow Chromebooks, not enough Chromebooks available, and people were suggesting as a solution to this having lessons that rely on.
The last breakout group we'll be discussing is DEIA. So when talking about discrimination, students felt that racism continued to be extremely normalized in school, whether this was saying slurs or racial jokes not being taken seriously. Students also were wanting more emphasis on Black History Month, more support for clubs like Roots at NWSS, or even starting clubs like that in the middle schools. And then people also felt that 2S LGBTQIA+ topics are still seen as very taboo and not talked about openly enough in high school. There was also a lot of conversation. This was something else that we had kind of heard for the first time this year, and was something that was brought up in the middle schools as well as the high schools, was the female athletics programs not being taken as seriously as some of the male programs. So, for example, students talked about not having the same coaches for the girls teams as well as the boys teams. A lot of girls found that it was like teachers who were just trying to find extra time or a parent volunteer. While for the boys teams, they were like experienced coaches or people who, just had like a lot of experience coaching. And they were coming in to do it like more professionally. And then also the girls and boys athletics not having the same access to like merch, like shirts, and then also just supplies in general. And then also there was discomfort around sexist jokes. Yeah, so that's all that happened at symposium. But yeah, that was a lot. It was a whole year. But thank you so much for listening.
Awesome. Well, maybe I'll just start with a couple of comments. The technology challenge or issue that you raised is certainly not the first time we've heard it. We were able to make a fairly significant investment in technology this year. I don't know if it's going directly to the high school or if we smattered around. Okay, so we hear you, and as we're able to replenish or provide more devices, we will. Queensboro bus, just a quick note, it is moving ahead for first term, just as is, and we are continuing to work with transit on a more permanent solution. I also just wanted to say I appreciated that you shared some detailed information for certain questions. For example, I think it's really helpful to understand why people don't feel safe in our schools and what contributes negatively to mental health. I was also, you might be surprised by this, Sadie, interested to hear about the girls' sports conversation at symposium. This is something that's very important to me. I know we can do better, and I'm glancing at the superintendent because we've had this discussion many times. I do have a question as well. Which is, were there any surprises from the grade 8 presentations? Any questions that were maybe like unexpected? Would you be able to sort of share maybe some of the themes that came up from those dialogues?
I think that because it was our first year doing the grade 8 presentation, it was definitely a learning curve. We were doing it alongside, as again, like Sadie mentioned, people from the performing arts, and then also people from athletics, and then we also had, I believe it was, who was talking about course selection, so it did end up being a very lengthy presentation. So by the time everyone was done, I know we didn't actually have like a lot of questions from the middle schoolers, because I think it's a lot of information at once. But people did come up after and talk to people from the different programs about things they were excited about, what sports teams the school offered. I think it was actually beneficial.
I would say we didn't have any questions that were out of the blue. Lots of kids were concerned about course selection, so we had a lot of questions from Mr. Mitchell regarding that. But it was cool to see a lot of kids excited, specifically from the US, about the music theater program. But yeah, nothing really out of the blue, and we'll continue to learn from our applications this year. We're excited to get
Awesome. Okay, trustees, I have Maya and Danielle.
Okay.
Thank you. I am so impressed with this report. I have seen years of these. And they've all been good, but there's something about the specificity that you're bringing that is just extremely informative and, just super impressive.
You can't believe it was us trying to cut to the chase, so.
It's really, really good work, you guys. And I'm thrilled to see student presentations to middle school. That's something we've heard from middle schoolers is just how much anxiety they have about the transition, and that's something they've exactly asked for is not some good experience from the high school covering things about it. So, and I love that there's an opportunity for problems. So that's, I'm so happy that's happening. There's a few things that I would love us to follow up on, and you've given us a lot of things. One, just like the quality of period products. I wonder if we could put in that to discuss. And then the sort of infrastructure around safety drills. Is that something we've heard consistently? And, you know, I think even if I know we're giving the advice that 2 classrooms combining into 1 is a safe practice, but I think what we find consistent with students is they just find it very unsettling. And it doesn't leave them with a feeling of safety. And so I think it's something we could look at with what would be the cost to change that. Probably there. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Russell. Trustee Plummer?
One of my questions was around the safety audit, the hour 0 hour. And when we're going to carry out things, I think some of the pieces in the blinds and the drills might be addressed.
I was taking notes as we went here to address those. I can sort of go through them all at the end, or I can take one at a time. And Hour Zero is an organization that does safety planning. They also do occupational health and safety instruction and that kind of stuff, primarily in school districts in North America. We just did an audit with Hour Zero here in the last few months, and they're producing specific safety plan documents for each of the school sites. Part of what they're also bringing to us is recommendations around what improvements or changes need to be made to sites in order to make them safer. So, for example, to make lockdowns simpler to do or more better, I suppose is the best way to say it. Those recommendations will come to us in August, and then we'll work to implement them over the course of the next year. But a big part of it is everybody learning the same system, and that same system being really well regimented. How do you find your class in the field and all of those kinds of things are all part of it. So I think we'll see improvement in how all of our emergency procedures function, because every school will be functioning on the same format, the same structure, we've done the same classes. The same lessons will be provided to students on how to use it. So I think we'll see it.
Go ahead.
I just was, so there's a number of things that stand out. Maybe we can talk about how it would be best to report out to student voice and just kind of identify the pieces that were, I don't know if you have particularly communicate out to fellow students. Some of these pieces are, there's, you know, maybe the next student's symposium or newsletter or
Instagram, which we could communicate like probably not that.
Every year, but I went to high school bathrooms were an issue. It would be really interesting to find what the best practices around high school washrooms and middle school washrooms.
I know that in previous years it was brought up, and then the idea of like hall monitors with people checking the bathrooms was implemented for a little bit, and then at the next symposium people thought that also made them feel unsafe. So I do know that it is a tricky problem where the solutions don't necessarily always work, but yeah, that was very.
And then second, just one other thing, and I guess this is kind of in the response piece from the nurse practitioners. The board has done some advocacy to try to get the hours reinstated to where they were previously. And you know, it's certainly important for the adults to step up here, but I also know that our folks, what students are doing, the student voice is also wanting to get their own voices out there a little bit. So like I said, we're doing a lot of work, and I would never want to push the work, but I would certainly encourage you to write your own letters, to raise your hand, and, you know, explain to them or to them, you know, the importance of that service from your perspective. Yeah, I think an exercise,
That's what I can talk about.
yeah, it's really a shame that that's how much that's not good to see. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, trustee Connell. And if you need contact information for where a letter might go, just reach out. Trustee Carlson.
Thank you for all of the we've done. It's obviously a lot of work that went into this, so thank you and the teachers. I was actually encouraged to see so many students identify positive connections through friendships, teachers, clubs, arts, athletics, but also that they were so candid about areas where improvement was needed. I appreciate the effort to hear both from current students and from those that are going to be students. So thank you for going to middle schools. I also appreciated the open-ended questions. I felt that allowed for students to answers, maybe go into things a little bit more, just a yes or no. And I found it very interesting to see some of the new answers this year, including sports, the suggestion for more science, rely on technology. We haven't seen that before, and for hiking, seen that before. So I found having the open-ended questions probably brought out a lot more and encouraged us too. So I had a couple questions. One was, I wonder if you had any sense of what student voices might still be missing. And there's any additional ways to get those students who may not typically participate in student voice or leadership, how to get those voices to them. I know you've raised it up, but I'm just wondering how we can get those voices. And secondly, as staff have reviewed results, I wonder if there's one or two themes that might stand out in areas where the district can make improvements. If not tonight, actually not tonight, I think it would be great for student voice to actually get an update on actions taken as a result of the feedback, such as the technology that we discussed. I don't know, do you get information like that back? Do we supply a report saying, here's what we've heard from you and here's what we're doing? But I'm not sure if you get a report.
This is both of our first year executives of the club, and so that's not something that I have been aware of, but I do think that would be appreciated. And I also think, like you said, I think that would actually help get more members of the student voice or more people participating in things like symposium. If the next year we actually said, hey, look, we heard what you said, and this is what people are doing about it, I think that that would encourage people to be more involved.
So put a note down to request it when you give your report, okay? I'm making a note too. But I also wanted to echo the voice that student voices are very strong and have impact, maybe more so than some of the adults, but we are advocating for you. Your voices have a lot of impact. So thank you. Please keep using them.
The first question. We are always looking for ways to improve the club, how we run things. We feel like sometimes because so much, we make presentations and things like that, it involves the executives, and we're trying to involve more club members. So I think we're looking at someone who social media promotion to get more students. We're always looking for more survey responses and people to participate in symposiums. So we're kind of option to get people to really realize that this is something that they can come out to and share their voice. And I think it would be cool next year if we do things like they know suggest they would be letters
and hopefully going to middle school will also get us some future grade 9 members next year.
Okay, we'll go online to trustee Andres.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for your presentation. Always love hearing from student voice. Sorry, I can't be there. I'm a little under the weather right now. two things kind of stood out for me. Something like Trustee Connolly also talked about is how washrooms safety remains an issue, and it is something we've heard every year of our term. And we have done things right, like put in the vape detectors. But I'm just wondering about maybe our approach. And so I think maybe this is more for staff, but I'm thinking back to when I was in school, and we kind of had a place called the smoke pit back then, where people would go off of school property with the acknowledgement that they wouldn't, vape or smoke on the property, and it was a place that everyone knew to go to together. And I'm wondering if we're using kind of a policy of trying to catch and prohibit students from participating in a behavior. And I'm curious about instead trying to gain control over that behavior, and in doing so, maybe shift where that behavior is occurring if we can't stop it. And so I don't want any kids to feel like they can't go to the washroom at school. I think that is a terrible thing. I think that everyone should feel safe, but especially when they're at their most vulnerable, using a toilet, which is a basic function that everyone needs. So I'm just curious about staff potentially considering other options beyond, trying to stop people from doing something that maybe they are doing. Thank you.
So it's really complex because the way washrooms are designed in some schools make it harder to supervise them. When there's a door into a large room with individual stalls inside, it's a lot harder to supervise than when you have doors that have into the hallway and a bank of sinks in the hall visible from the hallway. It's just a really different game. So some of the challenges we have are about the initial design of buildings that make it harder to supervise. The notion of a pit and so on, it's a hard one because it's one that administration are going to engage, but they also want to make sure that they don't come anywhere near to recommending illegal activity to students. If you're going to break the law, do it over here. So they have to be really careful about how they move kids around and along. Part of the challenge is all of our schools are so oversubscribed at 120%, 130% utilization. There's so many kiddos that can be on their way. I think limiting phone use is helpful, but phones are how people arrange to meet and have conversations and so on, and that's changed since we were in school. Most of the people have been stable anyway. So I think there's a lot of work to do to figure it out. Supervising is a hard one, right? Because if you have a male supervisor in the hall, they're not useful in their ladies' bathroom. If you have a female out, it's harder, and so there's just all of these issues related to supervision. Ideally, we'd be able to change all of the bathrooms so that they're individual stalls, open sink banks, so that people can always be supervised passively. But we'll have to work actually with students and staff at schools to figure out what other options are there.
Thank you.
Yeah. First, kudos for getting 400 from responses from the 100. It's really hard to get people to fill out surveys.
We gave free candy in the grand
My brain is always first. Yeah, so kudos on that. I guess the thing that popped up to me the most is the point 14 about which of these counselor-related tasks you feel the counselors are able to effectively help you with. So I'm assuming students could pick all of them or one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something that I don't feel like I have questions, but I don't feel like they would be able to be answered. Is it time that students feel because it's 262 for course selection, 231 for scheduling of classes, but then there's a drastic drop to mental health support, post-grad guidance. And I feel mental health support is almost like the foundation for all of the other ones. And so my mind just goes to, is it time? Is it like consistency of seeing someone, like students can see a counselor, but like the things that they're struggling with aren't able to be like, they don't have enough time to kind of walk through them. Like the breadth of the issue. So I really liked your idea of maybe specific roles for counselors and kind of exploring that, but like that's something I really want to like kind of direct the staff to is like, yeah, there's like, that's almost 200 answers compared to course selection and mental health support. So like that was really glaring to me, and I hope that we can boost that because I think that's the foundational piece. So
Yeah, I think those numbers as well, every single student in the school needs to be guided for selection because that's something we do every year. Meanwhile, mental health support, not every student struggles with mental health, so that could be another explanation as why the numbers drop.
Yeah.
And similar with their support down, most students need to be higher grade levels than would be on study pharmacy. So
I know that was one of the survey questions, and this was something that was again brought up this year at Symposium, and it's been brought up many years at Symposium, but just students finding that the sheer amount that was on their counselor's plate made it that they felt they weren't able to find that help with asking about post-secondary or asking about mental health support or support for issues out in the home or outside of school, which are all things that like I think students should be able to go to their counselor for. Especially around times like beginning or endings of semesters where it's really challenging to find a counselor's appointment. So yeah, that was one of the things that students just felt like they weren't able to talk to their counselor about something other than course selection because their counselors are just so overloaded with that work.
yeah, just that like there's always those like if you're an employee, sometimes there's like employee assistance programs where you could call out if you need mental health support. And I wonder if that's something that we have that like or something we could set up for students. It's like if there's these sort of range of topics, like there's somebody here that can call. Like I know there's those sort of helplines out there, but something that we can kind of embed in the school system that would kind of use that issue.
Fraser Health provides lots of options for us that we share with students. If you're struggling with this, you can reach out to this number or that number. Or you could go to Foundry here or here. One of the challenges is that people generally want to have connection with the person that we're working with. So some are reluctant to use the phone or some are reluctant to get on a bus and head to Surrey to use that. I always say if you've taken notes on things, so I'll describe an action item couple. One is we've been working hard on trying to get a nurse practitioner back to school. Fraser Health doesn't want to put them in because the majority of a nurse practitioner has to be connected to someone with whom they have an ongoing patient healthcare professional relationship. So that sort of one-off things, while they really matter to our students, they don't fulfill that expectation of the regulations that guide their work. So we've been working to try and get a partner to secure a full-time nurse practitioner for our school as part of a doctor's clinic, and then they would develop long-term patient healthcare practitioner relationship with the students in our system and their families. We put in that request months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, I think. We haven't heard back yet, but we think that it's a viable, reasonable, logical way to provide that kind of support to the students in our school, and so we're pursuing it aggressively. We also, your Vice Principal Toe and Mr. Modell have been working with Fraser Health around bringing a number of counseling services into the school so that there will be additional counselors in the wellness center every day of the week. Do you remember what are the disciplines within that? Do you recall? Presentations.
There were 4. I don't have them at my fingertips. I can look through it.
The intent is for them to be housed in our school full time to serve our kids. Before people rotating through that space, but it's another way that we're trying to increase the availability of counseling supports. We only learned of this within the last day, so it's new to us. But we're working really hard to try to build those partnerships. One of the challenges that our school counselors have is that they're in terms of their supports for mental health, they're supposed to work to support to stabilize and then hand off to ongoing supports. but ongoing supports are more and more difficult to find in community. And so when we turn to counselors in school, and of course, it's hard for them to say that's not my game, right? So they just keep going. And it's really hard. It's hard for them, and I know it's hard for our students. So we're really working hard to try and find other stable avenues, right? Not another thing that might come and go, but an ongoing relationship where someone works in our building, that's where they work. And you are who they serve. So hopefully we'll have those things. Well, one is pretty solid, Regional Health partnership piece. The other, again, so.
Thank you. Trustee Plum? Yeah, I just wanted to revisit the two, number 21 and 22 about additional resources to support QIA plus community. So that's 1 in 4 students are feeling that there's not enough support in our schools. And then the same when we go to racism and discrimination. 1 in 4 students who've experienced that. So there's obviously we have work to do. And I'm just wondering, the onus is obviously not as two boys, but is this not to fix that? But in communicating this to find the district who might be able to see some of these results and help the ways to address it.
So we reviewed the student voice report yesterday and had conversation about action items. One is that Sanj and Kyle work together around identifying how is it that we get the supports that are available to be more readily seen and understood to be available, and to have the queer community be more visible and visibly accepted throughout the school in a way that isn't connected to a month or transitory. It's part of how we live and work. So they're going to do that work and bring back recommendations for how we can step it up in the next year. Sanj is also, so Mr. Joe Hall is the district principal for equity and Indigenous education. He's also going to work with another member of the senior leadership team to examine equity in sport, not through the lens of is there inequity, but through the lens of why is it, and then what can be done to address it. They're going to focus on the things that we can directly intervene on at the school level, in middle school, elementary, and high school. They're also going to look at what are the things we can influence or try to encourage in community to address that challenge. So they're not doing a fact-finding report to determine is the thing. They're doing a fact-finding pursuit to find out why, and then what do we need to do to address it. All of those will involve students in terms of having conversations. I have to admit, when I read the report, I was very happy with the percentage of kids who feel safe, and that is a great. And I want every person who comes to our school to feel safe and loved and all the time. And so if we're missing things, we just want to go after those things. Mr. Joe Hall will work with another member of the team on the equity and sport issue. He'll work with Kai Smith around supporting 2S LGBTQI plus students and making sure that the environment, it's clear where the supports are and that equity lens is applied everywhere we go. What I've asked him to do, the theme of the conversation was to be more aggressive. That includes being more aggressive with administrators, teachers in terms of their responsibility to support equity through action. Being that I address inappropriate language and behaviors when I skit, that it's not good enough to just say, hey, but you have to be willing to say, hey, and follow it up with a conversation with a parent to say, what your child needs today in the classroom that is not okay, and referral to the office and so on. So there are collective focuses of more aggressive approach to addressing those things, more through positivity, but sometimes consequences part of that work as well. Yeah.
So I just want to again say thank you so much, and really proud because the work that you're doing through this symposium and that survey is, as I hope you guys are both great, right? Making a difference and changes coming about, and I think this is the reporting out to them as well, so next year at symposium, you can share with your fellow students about, you know, this is what was in the survey, this is what's being done, and so maybe we can do some work around getting that out.
Getting the
as well.
report.
So what we'll do is we'll provide your committee with a report in the fall, so you can share it with how the start now. And then you'll be part of the process of examining are the things that District Principal Joe Hall and his partners are doing having an impact on our schools. Then you can use those as foundational to your next set of surveys and questions. So you see the impact of that and so on. So we'll be completely.
So, yeah, thank you, Sadie, Keely, Ava, the team that's behind you that we don't see. For all of the work, on Student Voice this year. And it sounds like you're back, both of you are back next year, which is great for continuity and follow up with these things we're talking about today. So thanks again, and I hope we haven't taken too much of your time.
Okay, thank you so much. I really think how much you all like really truly care about what we're doing.
Absolutely.
You're appreciate all the questions, all the answers.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. See you next year.
Have a good summer.
Okay, our second presentation is on literacy, and we will welcome our literacy facilitators and our director of instruction. Just, come to the table, introduce yourselves, and I know Bettina will
Advance the
advance the slides. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Melissa Hafner, and I'm one of the literacy facilitators. I'm Jennifer Martins, I'm the other half. And good evening, I'm Sandra State Director of Teaching Learning. And I have the great pleasure of working alongside both Melissa and Jennifer. Next slide. We really do appreciate the opportunity to highlight the district's literacy initiatives. Our work represents collaboration district-wide. I would like to thank teachers and school-based administrators for their commitment to learn, collaborate, and engage in data-informed dialogue throughout the school year to ensure that primary students are being supported with literacy instruction. As a learning community, we have witnessed and celebrated the benefits of early literacy screening this year. Next slide. And this success can be attributed to the Ministry of Education, Child Care for awarding the school districts across the province with a literacy grant. The district literacy grant was used to appoint 2.6 literacy facilitators to support our 8 elementary schools and the provincial online school with the implementation of early literacy screening. The facilitators completed online audience training in early September. They created a PowerPoint presentation to deliver to each school. And they were in schools from mid-September to mid-October for in-person training during instructional time. 140 educators, including teachers, LSTs, ELLs, and administrators, were trained to use the Acadian screening tool. We wanted to make it easy as possible for teachers to administer the screening. All assessment materials were prepared beforehand, provided to teachers. Teachers were also supported on how to input their data using EdPlan Insight, which is the district's data management platform. Next slide. This school year, all kindergarten and grade 1 students were screened by the classroom teachers 3 times a day and using Acadians. For kindergarten French immersion, students were screened in English at the beginning of the year and then screened in French for the rest of the year. Next. Some grade 2 and 3 teachers this school year use the Devil's 8 screener. The interest in screening is growing amongst teachers in grades 4 and 5 and middle schools as well. And we're noticing more of a horizontal alignment with screening across the district.
As we know, using data to inform instruction isn't about labeling or categorizing students based on their performance. Instead, it's about understanding where each student is in their learning journey. By interpreting and analyzing the data, we can identify specific areas where students may need additional support or enrichment. Looking for patterns in the data allows teachers to tailor instruction to meet the student needs. So this data is set represents a grade 1 sample of Acadian's results from the 3 terms. Red indicates well below benchmark, yellow is below benchmark. There's 2 greens, the light green is at benchmark, the dark green represents above benchmark. As mentioned in the previous slide, the data helps teachers understand students' strengths and where they require further support. This data will follow students from year to year, so it is our responsibility to interpret it thoughtfully and with care. Next slide, please.
Ministry has confirmed that all students in kindergarten to grade 3 must be screened in the 2026-27 school year prior to the implementation of the K-3 provincial screening tool that will be mandated in 2027. Next, please. Next school year, kindergarten to grade 2 French immersion students will be screened using Acadian's Francais. Now, currently, Acadians doesn't have a grade 3 Francais screener. So while we wait for the provincial screening tool, we are going to be using the grade 2 end of year Acadians screener in the fall, and then progress monitor in term 2 and 3 using the French diagnostic. Next.
So our district literacy team has been very busy this past year. We have supported schools and staff through lunch and learn sessions, participating in staff meetings, and regular collaboration at school sites. These opportunities created space for meaningful professional learning while also allowing our team to facilitate ongoing conversations with school-based staff about adaptive assessment. Together, these efforts supported thoughtful, data-informed decision-making to better meet the needs of our students. As we look ahead, our focus remains on strengthening literacy practices in classrooms. While we are proud of the progress made, we recognize that there's still important work to be done in this area. We have established a district literacy finding table that brings together diverse voices from across our K-12 system. Through this collaboration, we share our successes, identify challenges, and align our efforts to support a cohesive district-wide vision for literacy that benefits all learners. These steps reflect our shared belief that literacy is everyone's responsibility, and that with the right supports in place, every student can grow to a confident and capable leader.
To build capacity in the school district, it is important to acknowledge that professional learning takes place across our system. This year, school-based administration dedicated their time to a four-part learning series with the co-author of the book, It's Possible, and we've worked throughout the year with the country handling. The district literacy planning table collaborated together to create a new literacy framework that was revealed and shared amongst our table members yesterday. And this framework will support literacy instruction with evidence-based practices for all of our students, including Indigenous students, English language learners, our students with diverse abilities and disabilities, and children. During the QP Professional Development Day in November, 2 literacy sessions were offered to staff by school administrators. And recently, the district-wide pro team offered educators an opportunity to learn with Dr. Brad Baker, Dr. Mary Smith, Calico Clark, Tashi Kritisek, and Melanie Raymond. Calico's presentation for kindergarten to grade 7 teachers focused on how to build a robust literacy box for students. Melanie's presentation for K-12 teachers and support staff, including PAs, focused on the multi-tier systems of support, otherwise known as the MTSS framework. And Tashi's presentation was geared for middle school and high school teachers, learning support teachers, and support staff. And the focus of her presentation was on how teachers can support unlocking content to support reading comprehension in the higher grades. Next slide.
So some key insights and reflections. Continuing to build capacity with teachers district-wide, as well as supporting teachers with interpreting the data results and determining next steps, as well as sharing, many teachers are sharing that they see the value in screening, and we are working with their school-based teams on how to best support the students. Next slide, please.
So what matters most is how we work together to support student success. And at the heart of our approach is a commitment to creating a culture of teamwork, where collaboration, sharing ideas, and staying focused on what is best for students is guiding the work. District staff, school admin, and school-based teams are working in partnership to ensure that every student receives the support that they need. We have learned that it's not about isolated efforts. It's about building a coordinated, responsive system that adapts to meet the needs of all learners. I'd just like to share some information regarding expenditures. Expenditures with the literacy grant. The grant again was awarded to our school district, and I mentioned previously the hiring of our literacy facilitators, and then the cost associated with training our kindergarten and grade 1 teachers. This was instrumental for us to arrive at a successful place in June, and coverage for teachers was provided in the grant. So that was a full. We wanted to ensure that teachers had enough time to answer questions, questions answered, to have some opportunity to sandbox and find insight. And that time was very valuable in setting every teacher up for success in the school district. Moving ahead to next year, 26-27, with the remaining funds, we will utilize the remaining funds to cover TTOC expenditures, to train any new teacher who is new to the assignment. Certainly, we will allocate funding to train the grade 2 and grade 3 French immersion teachers with on stage. The cost of preparation of all of the booklets will come from the grant money, as well as professional development considerations to support teachers on going through the instruction. And we have landed on our last slide. We'd like to conclude with this quote from Margaret Wheatley, one of my favorites actually. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. This slide speaks to why we all do the work that we do and our collective commitment to ensure that every student has the right to read, to be the best that they can be in U.S. schools. Thank you, and we're happy to take questions.
Thanks, all of you. Trustees, questions, comments? Trustee Russell?
I just was very curious about the art, which I think was an example of that insight, and how that works a little bit more. So yeah, this is just one sample of where we input the data, and then that helps to identify where the benchmarks are. And then we can analyze the data over time
to see where children's strengths are, and also where maybe some more targeted instruction needs to be applied at classroom level, or if we school-based kids supports for the learner. So it's very easy to use, and it takes some time. Just as soon as you've done a screener, just having the results, and it just populates.
Trustee Split?
Yeah, thanks so much for your presentation. I just had a couple questions. So from my understanding, when you received like basically 225,000 as a grant and spent almost 200,000, 199 and change, which leaves approximately like 26,000 remaining. And so if I understand, you said that's going to go towards more like TTOC expenditures and training time. So, is there a time that the grant, because this is a grant, right? Does it have to be spent in a certain amount of time, or like, is there a cutoff?
The grant must be spent by June 30th, 2027. So any remaining funding that we're carrying over will be spent next year. And then there will be a follow-up report that I'll submit to the ministry in July of 2027.
And I guess just a follow-up question to that is, because it was a grant and I mean, it allowed us to do all of these things with that money, like if that grant doesn't happen again, like, do we have any sort of ideas, like as a board or district, like how we'll sustain this work? We're seeing positive results, but if that, that money runs out, we don't get it again. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that, Director Singh?
I think again, in recognition of the ministry's efforts, every school district is, looking towards how is it that we can build, how can we sustain this? And certainly one of the key areas of focus for us next year will be is how do we continue to support teachers with the universal approaches to literacy instruction. Again, when we're thinking of building capacity within our systems, we need people to do that.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe the appointment of the literacy facilitators and also the board's recognition of the important work that lies ahead. The appointment of 1.0 FTE will certainly enable us to continue with the goals that we have forecasted.
That's one question. Or like when we received I'm trying to sort of agree. When we received like the literacy results in like other meetings, they kind of go hand in hand from the screening to okay, that's what I was put together. Thanks so much.
Okay. Trustee Connolly?
Just had a couple of questions. First one is the cost of the booklets. What are those booklets?
We can provide you with that information. So every student will require a paper copy of the booklet. Yes, so from kindergarten to grade 3, both English and French. And those booklets will be used throughout the year, 3 times a year. But teachers need that booklet in order to then collect the data that gets entered into the electronic site. And it guides the teachers with the script. Listen, Jim.
Each term there's some tests that have to be done. So these booklets have everything there for the teacher to read as they're going along. As mentioned, and has the script as well.
But there again, you have this, teachers really did appreciate that we didn't have one for a copy. It was, here you go. So I think just kind of in line as well with trustees then, and what has been mentioned, we are supporting in our budget, we did support a 1.0 literacy facilitator, but decisions have to be made in our budget, and with no additional student funding, these are decisions that we're going to have to make year after year to ensure that these initiatives are sustained. So just kind of putting that out there that it's, it is obviously important that the priorities in the district and their budget showed it, but about these booklets that are needed, the facilitator position, which is so important and has incredible benefits. I think it's something that we're going to have to look towards, operationalizing that position going forward. So it's just a really
Thank you. Over to Trustee Andres online.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation and for your passion and interest that you bring to this work, which is so important for our students. I just had actually just a quick request. I think my colleagues have spoken about some of the same ideas I had. Is it possible to maybe just change the data into plain language so that parents, when they're looking at these charts, it's a little bit easier to interpret it, just because it just seems a little bit, with the abbreviations, it can be hard to follow what it's actually showing. And I think that would be really helpful for families. Thank you.
Data that we collect for the screening is actually not intended. It's more of a formative to inform educators as to what are the next steps. So within the scope of looking at the data, if, for example, a teacher would like to engage in a conversation with a parent regarding a specific stretch or a gap, they would address it in such a way that the parent would understand. If a student needed more support with thinking and awareness, based on the screener, they would say, these are the things that I am going to do to support your child understanding this simple sound association. So no, not so much the visual presentation, but what is the conclusion of that visual assessment alongside whatever else that the teacher or the school team thinks they need to do.
Sorry, Director Sig, I wasn't clear. I just meant in this presentation today. I understand how it will be used. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Trustee Carlson.
I just wanted to thank the literacy team and all the educators involved. A lot of work. Really appreciate the early education and support.
And yeah, go ahead, Superintendent.
One thing that has been so impressive to me is and I know there were challenges through it, trust me, but the relative smoothness with which the screening process and the new software were introduced to schools. It takes a lot of work to do that as well as you did, in order to move people through that kind of work in a way where they get connected to true value for kiddos, and it doesn't overwhelm them. And so I commend you for that. You did amazing. And one of the things I find most exciting about this is that the data and the ease with which they're able to see it, visualize what it's saying, has produced amazing conversations outside of the view of you or administrators about how people are working together to help people address deficiencies in their reading. And I think those are two things that you can't necessarily measure, but they have a measurable impact on our kids. So I really appreciate both.
Superintendent Davidson, if I may, I would like to also recognize Emily Gardner, who is our district speech language pathologist. And the work that we do is certainly based as well on the great work that she's done before us to have us land where we are. She's worked extremely hard this year also in facilitating training for girls, not only in grade 2 and 3, but with the increased interest in the higher grades, she's gone into schools and had some great focused conversations as to the benefits of this screening. So I would be remiss of not acknowledging Emily. So thank you to Emily as well.
And I just have some praise as well. People around this table know that I always have a copy of our strategic plan at every meeting. And I just can't really think of a better example of how we are using our strategic plan to guide us. So if we look at our focus area of student experience with a goal of fostering an inclusive learning community where every student has the opportunity and supports to reach their full potential, we're hitting 2 objectives within this focus area and a couple of success measures. And so like it's all coming together and I just love it. So thank you so much. Okay. We'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is correspondence. Included in your package tonight was a letter of advocacy related to climate change curriculum that has been sent to Minister Bear. Thank you, Trustee Andres, for bringing this to our table. And not included in your package, but talked about earlier tonight was the additional letter that went to the Monkey Rebels group for their advocacy to the Select Standing Committee on Finance. Agenda item number 5 is board committee reports. Our first report is related to the May 21st coordinating committee meeting. Trustee Connolly, do you have any comments, or are we just going to approve the minutes?
I want to express gratitude to all the committee members who, come every month or a couple of months and the value that they add to the work that we're doing in the district.
Agreed. Thank you so much. We have a recommendation that the Board of Education School District 40 approve the minutes as distributed for the May 21st, 2026 coordinating committee meeting. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you so much. We also had an audit committee meeting on June 2nd. Trustee Slynn is the chair of that committee, so I'll pass the floor to him for any comments connected to the report that's attached to the agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We got a presentation with KPMG. There was nothing like scary. They gave us a great report. So yeah, to the report here.
Thanks to both of you. Agenda item number 6 is reports from senior management, and our first report is from Superintendent Davidson. Superintendent update.
So, a show.
I have
I
it.
sent it. Yeah.
There it is.
What is now? You gaslighting me?
No.
Jeez.
Blame it on the deck.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, every year, this time of year, we have a good things happen presentation or conversation. Much of what we'll talk about here are things that you will have heard throughout the year. We've been watching the videos or coming to the meetings, but it's a nice place to stop and sort of take a look back at all the work that has been done and things that have been accomplished by our school community. Next slide. So at the core of what we do has been keeping student learning at the center. All of our thinking and our work that teams throughout our system have used evidence in order to improve practice and speaks to the data and research supported practice that is critical in our strategic plan and is important to us in our daily work. And that schools kept creating moments of joy every day, from small events to little interactions at our schools, and those things are tremendously valuable. Next slide. So some pretty amazing things going on in terms of early literacy, a focus that has been strengthened, and there's shared language and vocabulary being diffused across the system, where people are coming together from schools from one end of the district to the other, and they're speaking a shared language about how to support literacy among our students, so that's very positive. The amount of work that's being done around the system in order to improve teacher practice to support the development of literacy among our students has been exemplary. If you think of that, the district math night, there were over 600 students and then their families there to engage with them. I asked Mike, our comms person, to take a picture from above the Grand Commons just to show the scope of all of those people together, and it was spectacular. Fine arts, as usual, has been amazing. I attended the June review recently, and tomorrow is dance.
We have a video like
Someone was a guest conductor.
Yeah.
It was ugly, but I was enthusiastic. Yeah, but it was fun. I'm so impressed with the work that all of our schools do to support the arts, and obviously the high school gets kudos for the big things that they do, but the junior band or senior band concert at Fraser River or in our other schools, and there's great work being done that have young people go to the high school excited about what's next, and have just all the time in the world for people who share their gifts that way with our kids. And then of course there were new courses approved by the board for the 26-27 school year. The number of voices that participated in the student voice survey, the spring symposium, and the expanded interaction with middle schools is producing positive information for us. You know, we talked about street data in the past. It's encouraged us to engage in different ways of working through identifying solutions to problems that we do know or should have known existed. And I'm thrilled with the fact that engagement seems to be growing and becoming baked into the way we work together, and I value that. I appreciate it. I know that you as board do as well. So students have reported a stronger sense of safety and belonging over the course of the last couple of years, and this is one of those ones where every data point is a story, and wouldn't be happy if 10% of people had sad stories. And so our goal is to work to try and address every kiddo where they are and support them and their families to make sure that school is a positive place for them. Social emotional learning remains a priority, and there's lots of work being done. We're grateful for partnership that we've had with Fraser Health and supporting developing continuum of supports in schools around social emotional learning. Lots of advocacy around the youth hub. Thank you to the board for that work. And we've put into place some safeguards around how to support volunteer coaches to ensure that not only are they being ethical, but they're seen to be ethical because they're supported in that. So that I'm proud of that work. 900 staff attended PD, our Indigenous Professional Development Day. The day was amazing. I think sometimes we short sell how awesome it was, but the number of conversations I had in the hall, not just about what was going on in that day, but also what it meant to come together and learn together and to see old friends. That was really great. Student forums, family gatherings have been used to develop relationships with Indigenous students and their families. Cultural teachings are growing in our system, and we're working hard on building partnerships that support transitions, secondary transitions between schools. And we're grateful for all of that that's been done this year. The board did great work, I think, in protecting classroom services and supports in what was a challenging budget year. We've not contracted, but expanded the district support for literacy learning in our district. We've maintained counseling levels with less dollars available to us, and we've done good work, thanks to Bettina and the boards being receptive around building emergency readiness through the process of developing risk registry and the collaborative conversations we've had as a team around how to support one another in addressing those things in advance of crisis has been really compelling, and some of the most exciting conversations I've been able to have. And I mean, seriously, when an accountant chairs a committee and it's the most exciting committee you've been a part of for a while, that's pretty awesome to say. The community has showed up for our kids, and they've showed up for our kids through advocacy, through working hard to share with the board and with the administration what matters to them and what they want us to do with and for their children. And the advocacy of the board around affordability and making sure that services are available to students across the system and that funding keeps pace with need has been powerful. And they continue to advocate for childcare supports, youth hub, and also for the return of funding at the federal level for IRCC supports for the new Canadians who have come to our system and who are experiencing increasing challenges as our economy is challenging, and the supports that are available to them are doing well. It produces really true crisis of equity, and the board has provided powerful advocacy in that area, and I know that that's appreciated. And building for the future. 1,000 ideas provided through the survey process. Long-range facilities plan comes to you in part shaped by that. We've heard reports that every time we engage in modernization effort or project in our schools, we're focused on climate resilience and making sure that our schools are healthy schools, reducing our carbon footprint and having that be part of how we assess projects and how we're going to proceed. We're committed to returning to green spaces in our schools and helping our kids get to a place where they can touch grass. And the conversation around between clear intensification as part of that larger plan, that conversation will continue in earnest over the course of years. And there's been some exciting new things and cool things that have happened. IB Europe field trip was approved. Spring productions and sports day grew by a grade level this year, and it went from half day to a full day, and it was spectacular and nice day, beautiful weather. Middle school flag football league was launched. They played 3 jamboree tournaments in our schools, and new learning pathways approved in our schools. Also very exciting. Yeah, a clean audit opinion. We accept that they left. You approved a budget that protects our students. You advocate constantly. And the policy work that's going on right now and will continue into the term of the next board is critically important in that it has us remain accountable to examining what we say we're going to do and what's expected of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. That was a lovely reflection. Got lots going on. Lots has happened this year. Questions, comments, trustees? Sure, trustee Slim.
My comment is just thanks to the superintendent for being like so involved in schools, like putting feet on the ground and not just sitting in your nice office, but like making those connections, because I think it's important for students to kind of see you in schools and not just as a figurehead, but as like somebody that's relatable. So it's important. Appreciate that.
Okay. We'll move on to agenda item 7B, and we have Director of Instruction Mary Schellenberg to speak to Policy 29, Inclusive Education.
Here. Okay, I feel the team on me. So I'm really pleased to bring forward updated policy 29, inclusive education, to the board today. This policy was previously presented to the coordinating committee most recently and received lots of thoughtful and meaningful feedback from a number of groups. So much appreciated to all those folks. I have carefully reviewed the feedback and am pleased to share that many of the suggestions have been incorporated. It's important to note the key enhancements, including a stronger emphasis on staff safety and support, clear anti-ableism language, a more precise description of what meaningful inclusion looks like in practice, greater clarity around how we will measure success across our system, an increased focus on ongoing training and professional learning for staff. So looking ahead, the next phase will involve developing administrative procedures to really make clear what this looks like in practice along a number of key items. And those procedures will provide real detailed guidance to support consistent practice across all our schools. So wanting to, again, just give a huge thank you to all of those who contributed and provided input, which really helps strengthen this policy.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments from trustees? Trustee Russell?
I want to thank you for the work. I think it is an excellent policy. I love how you reflected the feedback, and I feel really good that the board's values are really well.
Thank you. Trustee Slim?
Yeah, I just, thank you for your work, and I just wanted to point out the section 3.10 where it says like class composition, staffing levels. Access to special service, collaborative planning, timing, and staff learning environments. I think I'm glad that that's in there because I think it shows that, it's not, inclusion isn't just philosophy to us, it's like it's only needs resources and like action behind it, so like I was just like that.
Sorry, Trustee Connolly.
Just to come up with it. It's not recalling if there was a best practice on this one. I know we're reflecting on the district's values. That kind of thing, but was there a best practice one? Or is this? No, there was actually in the BCSU templates, maybe because with the ministry, just all. Superintendent?
Part of why we wanted to bring policy in, and maybe something that a future board decides to change the procedure, was that we wanted staff to understand, and we didn't even understand that it was a priority for the board that we bring continuity in terms of the way we approach those supports across the district. That while there are nuances in the way we support an individual student, the level of care and concern and the application of research supported practice, every child deserves that no matter where they are. That's why I think the bringing in this policy, it was about really making sure that it was very clear how important this is to us as a district.
So just to follow up, I wonder if this is something like a group like Inclusion BC would either have that or response on.
Do you have thoughts on Inclusion BC? Happy to look at the policy, or is it something we share with them after, or
Maybe the AP's more like how we have.
maybe or the action?
Yeah, I would really be interested in working with others on that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Trustee Frozen?
Thank you for this. I was actually wondering if staff could explain how the commitment to the safe and school environment, how will be operationalized.
The one particular section that you're looking at?
Well, no, I guess I'm wondering how it will be monitored, is that the right word? How will we know?
Yeah, that was one of the questions brought by the coordinating committee that I've really considered. The piece that I think does speak to that, and be interested in your feedback, is on page 32.7, around the different type of information that we will use to determine how long inclusive education is working. And some of the pieces outlined there are around learning and achievement data, participation engagement. So I'm even imagining today when I was hearing student voice talk, I was thinking to myself, you know what, I'd love to talk to them next year, but including more questions around students with disabilities and diverse abilities, because that wasn't represented that I could see. And I'm just curious about what we might gather from that.
And how to
For sure, yes. Progress and IEP goals, so there already is baseline and measurement built into our IEP templates. And so I've been trying to imagine, how to gather that, present it sort of on a large scale, because obviously each one is quite individualized. So made tricky, but a worthy cause to look into that. Student and family feedback, that's relating to some of the, street data that I'm hearing in other areas that we're looking at. We often get feedback from families, often when concerns arise, but thinking through how we can engage in some of our, welcome events, Discover New West, or some of those events to gather people's experiences. There's TPAC as well. I've had conversations with those folks to hear, what are some groups we can get together to better understand what communication would be helpful for them and how they're experiencing the system. And then schools' climate sense of belonging, I'm thinking about some of our school-wide surveys, as well as different pieces that administrators utilize to sort of assess how we're doing in regards to students that this policy is facing.
Thank you.
So that's your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, so trustees, we have a recommendation that the Board of Education School District 40 approve policy 29, inclusive education, as presented. Someone want to make that second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you so much. Thank you for all your work on this. Okay, Secretary Treasurer has just pointed out that Mr. Rick Waddell is here, probably to speak to item 7I, which is an update on the school swimming lessons pilot. And I'm wondering if we are amenable to just moving that, just covering that right now so that.
I very much appreciate it, but I was going to stay
Okay.
and just in turn, if there were any questions around trustee Conley's motion on the
That's right.
the IRCC. So I appreciate it, Secretary
That's
Treasurer,
right.
there's no pressure.
Okay, let's leave it in the order that it was proposed then. Thank you, Rick. Okay, that moves us to item 7C, which is the long-range facilities plan recommendation approval. Over to you, Secretary Treasurer Ketchum.
Thank you. Included in your packages is a backgrounder surrounding the 2026 long-range facility plan recommendations. Again, board has had a number of conversations and some consultations with the community about the fact that these are just the recommendations. The actual formal report about the LRFP itself will come later in September, as is a very fulsome document. However, it is necessary to get the board's support for a path because, of course, the Ministry of Education are also looking for submission by the district by June 30th on our capital plan submissions, which informs them of what the district's needs are for this upcoming cycle of approval for capital projects. So a little bit of background. Last June, the board had supported the staff in our refresh of the long-range facility plan. We engaged Studio Hub architects. They've come to present to coordinating committee and consultation groups a couple of times already throughout this school year. We've had a number of opportunities to work with them to have on-site ground visits to review our facilities, our sites, trying to have a better sense on how we can utilize our school sites, but also plan for future for capacity growth. Alongside that review of the actual sites and buildings themselves, there was a separate consultant working alongside us on the projections for enrollment, which are also critical as we put together a plan to take into account that growth that we're anticipating over the next 15-year period. So that all comes together in the recommendations that are coming forward this evening. Part of the work that we're engaged in now as well is contemplating which scenario the board would like to support as part of its long-range facility plan. As I mentioned, it is connected to a number of pieces that you will see on tonight's agenda, including the capital plan approval, eligible school site proposals, and school site acquisition charges. It's a big bundle of capital considerations for you this evening. Included as well in your packages, we've prepared a table which compares the prior year submission with the two scenarios that are before you this evening. Scenario A, again, just to recap that, is a contemplation of up to 2,300 capacity junior and senior secondary school on the site of Lord Tweedsmuir. Scenario B also utilizes Lord Tweedsmuir as a site, and it contemplates an elementary and middle school capacity construction for 2,000 students, 1,000 at each of those grade configurations. Scenario A, of course, given the type of facility that we're requesting being a junior and senior school, would necessitate a grade reconfiguration from a K-5, 6-8, and 9-12 school to district-wide reconfiguration of K-7 and 8-12. In contrast, Scenario B contemplates a reconfiguration of removing a grade out of the high school and configuring the district to a K-6, 7-9, and 10-12 configuration. So those are the fundamental differences between them. Of course, the Lord Tweedsmuir project represents the cornerstone site for which these projects are being contemplated. under, and that necessitates a number of different changes. You can see from the prior year capital plan submission. This was reviewed with the board at a previous time, but here for your reference in terms of understanding how the proposal under each scenario impacts the capital plan from last year's submission for your reference. As well, important to highlight, under both of these scenarios, we've contemplated some replacement projects under the Lord Kelvin site in future. That school has come to end of life in terms of its, the life of its construction back in 1965. So it's something we do want replaced, but also utilize as a site to further densify alongside the proposed use of Lord Tweedsmuir in terms of both scenarios. Wanting to highlight the reason why as well Lord Tweedsmuir is not included as part of the capital plan submission that you'll see in your next report is because that has been a supported project. So as part of these projects, it doesn't have to go forward to the Ministry of Education in their capital plan because it's already received support. So we're already in that business case development. I've included some information here about where we are in that business case redevelopment for Lord Tweedsmuir and the community engagement we've been through as well. So in terms of next steps, based on your approval of the long-range facility plan recommendations, whether it's scenario A or scenario B, that will inform the capital plan submission. The district team will continue to work on the business case for the Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment, pending the board's direction and vote here this evening. And then come September 2026, we will, as I mentioned, bring forward the long-range facility plan to the board table for its approval. Again, these are the recommendations that will inform the final plan. The plan will come forward in a more fulsome document in September. I'm happy to answer any questions, but for your perspective, and as you can see here, the staff recommendation is to endorse the scenario A option, which is inclusive of the junior and senior secondary school at Lord Tweedsmuir site.
Questions, comments? Trustee Slint?
Yeah, thank you. So I know it's a crystal ball, like projections are crystal ball, but like scenario A gets us closer to 2040. But like, have we also done any sort of consideration around like what if like projections are wrong? Like, what if the enrollment growth exceeds that projection? Like I know we have a dip right now, but and again I know it's a crystal ball, so like nothing set in stone, but just like have we done sort of that sort of in this scenario if it does exceed it, like how that would play out?
Yeah, I think the temporary dips that you're referring to are just that. The long-range facility plans assumes a full build-out of the city of New Westminster over time based on the city's OCP, which are somewhat, I won't say immune, but they're less impacted by those minor fluctuations that you might see year to year from geopolitical events or economics and so on and so forth. It might take longer time to get there. But we utilize those data points to help to inform the enrollment growth. So we've done a lot of consultation with the city. We've looked at the Metro Vancouver plans as well to better understand where we think we're going to be. So this wasn't done in a vacuum on our own with our consultants with just data inside the district. They were informed more broadly by our partner groups who have shown support for the level of growth that we're anticipating. Of course, there is an element there where these are just simply estimates, but we do our best to, again, keep our finger on the pulse as it relates to continuous changes in enrollment. You will have noticed that we've engaged through a number of long-range facility plan refreshes, certainly over the course of your tenure here as trustee, and we will continue to do so to make sure that our capacity or our capital plan requests and our long-range facility plans are as accurate as possible for the information that is known at that time. But both scenarios, just wanted to highlight, will both get us to the 2036 period. 2040, I think, is sort of when the divergence happens in terms of availability of land and how readily we might be able to build a larger facility such as a high school. That kind of space comes at a premium, is quite scarce here in New Westminster, given the maturity of this municipality. So there is some consideration the board would like to make in terms of how bullish you would like to be by the year 2040 that we would be able to find another site that would be able to accommodate the number of students that we need in another high school. So that might be a consideration you'd like to make this evening.
And I just have one other question, because I know we had community engagement sessions on May 21st and June 1st, and I was wondering if there was like a summary or points that were made in those engagement sessions that could be shared out. I hadn't, maybe I missed it, but did I miss that?
There wasn't a summary as far as I know.
No, the May committee, the whole meeting was minuted.
Yeah.
Those minutes were shared through one of our meetings, so they are available. And then as part of the June 1st session, there is no set of documented minutes to be put and shared forward, but staff were making notes in terms of what the concerns that we heard from that evening were, some of the suggestions that people had brought forward.
Yeah, if it's possible to get some sort of summary first, if there's a point, that'd be great. But
yeah,
that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Slynn. Trustee Andres online.
Yeah, thanks. Trustee Slynn, there is a frequently asked question document, which is available on the district website, which has been built with the Tweeds families, and it has a lot of the questions that were raised in the LRFP consultation meeting on June 1st, along with district answers, which might be helpful. Just going to the issue at hand, for me, I support business case A or scenario A, because the reality is of getting a high school built in our district are very, very well documented. And if we have the opportunity to do this, I do feel like we have to take it. I do want to speak to the challenges that this places on the Tweeds community and families. And I guess this question is for the superintendent. Do you think government would be open to other options other than decanting to Stride if other options were possible? Because I know from speaking extensively with families and with the PAC and we've attended some meetings together around this. This is the main sticking point for families and the one that is really hard for them to move past. So staff, what are your thoughts? Can we pursue this with government?
Yeah, when we first started having conversations about this, Trustee Andres, we indicated to our counterparts with government that this was likely to be the most significant challenge. Our experience has been in the last year that the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Minister herself have been very receptive to creative ideas and to requests for examining things again. And so I believe that if we are able to build viable alternatives and present them to government, that they will be seriously considered. They haven't slammed the door on our thinking once in the last while since that ministry was created. So I think the answer is yes. I think they'd be receptive to something that was viable, that they've got the project done on the timeline they hope to, and satisfied that need to get going quickly and build something that's gets out ahead of the moment.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Trustee Russell.
Thank you for that. I want to just express my support, I guess, for scenario A. I shared before, but the prospect of New Westminster getting its second high school is extremely exciting, and I am really, really pleased that we are here. And curious about that conversation and all the work that is ahead of us. I know it's a long road, but I'm really, really hopeful and excited about it. And in conversations at the PACs I've been at this month, I think that optimism is shared, and yeah, we're quite pleased to see that we're moving along here. But one of the questions I was given that I couldn't answer, and I think I know the answer is like it's too soon to say, but was just around sort of what would the timing and sequencing be. My understanding was sort of it's 10 years to the full package, but I don't know if you can fill in any of that, what it really is.
10 years for which full package?
So say grade reconfiguration.
Oh, I see. I understand, I think, your question. So you mean before the district-wide grade reconfiguration can happen across the entire full sites, how long would that take, and would it be resolved through the one large project? Is that kind of what you're asking? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you're right, there is a multi-step process that is underway. The first of which is obviously with the announcement of Simcoe Elementary helps to alleviate some capacity at the elementary school level. The addition of 2,300 students at Lord Tweedsmuir is certainly a game changer, but as indicated in the long-range facility plan, doesn't quite meet the full need of the district to meet full reconfiguration, either with a K-7 or 8-12, or through retaining the middle school model. And the reason being that we already are short by capacity by that many seats. And so to get ahead of that, we will need the Lord Kelvin site as an elementary school project to sort of fully satisfy the needs for the capacity requirements we feel through full build out. That's not to say by the time we march 12 to 15 years out from now, we won't need more, but at this time, from what we can tell, those projects would need to be satisfied before the entire district could reconfigure completely. Now we will take steps as space becomes available to transition to the board's approved model. But you're quite right that we will need over time to undertake a number of projects before meeting full reconfiguration across the district.
Thank you for the rescue there. And I just remembered my point, which was at what point might Kite get relief in the actual removal of portables and getting that outdoor play space back?
At this time, based on the facts we know today, there would be some consideration of relief through the completion of Simcoe Elementary, through the redrawing of boundary lines. But the full capacity relief of some of these pieces wouldn't be available until we get additional capacity through the site of Tweeds. That's when you start to see significant gains enough to reclaim space back with removal of portables on various sites. We're probably going to utilize some portables as we continue the full build out to sort of manage our growth. So I couldn't say for sure when they would fully be removed. It's certainly a challenging and complex puzzle to sort of sift through.
But that catchment redraw opportunity comes up after Simcoe.
Thank you. Trustee Crowe?
I want to start off by saying thank you to Trustee Andres. Anything that can be done to keep our students in our district would certainly be very welcome. I lose 2 families, I know, from what I've been doing with community. I'm wondering, and I think we've got the answer to this, but just curious from what you've heard, would saying, some of our asks in the capital and whatnot, would saying that we are doing this grade reconfiguration with the intent to, maximize space, not need potentially more schools, that type of thing. Is that any priority to our asks when we go forward to the ministry?
I think if I understand you correctly, that I think is our willingness to be flexible in the way we use our resources. Does that support us yeah, I think being a part of this, wanting to explore different ways to do things makes it easier than done with government. For sure.
Oh, and the other question, I guess by supporting either of these alternatives, I guess, and de facto, the board is essentially saying, well, the you can create the integration this way.
Yes.
So, clear about that.
Well, follow approval, actual approval of the Tweets project would be a review of our attendance areas of grading configuration and how we can phase it, because the goal would be for us to do it, not do it in a way where what we do with Simcoe needs to be redone, but to have a plan to do a phased redraw so that kids don't find themselves or families don't find themselves in one area, then a new one when Simcoe opens, and then another new one when the other schools open. So we want to be really careful how we do that.
Okay.
Sure.
Trustee Carlson.
Thanks. I want to acknowledge this has been a really challenging process for the board and for the staff. We're trying to address real capacity issues, pressures, and city that is very limited. And I recognize the options that are here are shaped by factors that are beyond the district's control. So I continue to hear concern from families and residents about transportation, traffic, infrastructure, and the potential impact on students, neighborhoods, and the broader community. Those concerns are real. I believe that they deserve thoughtful consideration. I recognize that some families, including those affected by programs and school transitions, questions about transportation, access, day-to-day impact on students, they remain important considerations. I'm looking forward with this. But as a trustee, I share a lot of those concerns, and I care deeply about the students and families who are directly impacted and affected. But I also recognize that my responsibility is to consider the students across the whole district, both now and for years to come. So I don't believe there's any perfect solution before us. So when I work through this recommendation, my understanding is that tonight's decision is not a final approval of a project. We're being asked to identify a preferred direction for business space. I also understand there's probably a number of stages ahead regarding future approvals, funding decisions, projects, direction, and a lot of that rests with the call. Is that correct?
Correct.
Trustee Carlson. So I'm going to, at this point, read the motion before us, the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, endorse scenario A, inclusive of the junior, senior secondary at Lord Tweedsmuir, as presented as the preferred recommendation strategy for the 2026 long-range facilities plan. Mover, seconded. And any further discussion on this? All in favor? Thank you, trustees. Okay, staying in the vein of capital, we have the 2027-28 5-year capital plan, major capital projects. So back over to you, Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. These next couple of agenda items are all somewhat related to the long-range facility plan. So you heard me talk about the long-range facility plan, the assumption in preparing the 5-year capital plan, given a number of conversations and the community consultation and feedback we've heard to date, did support scenario A. So the 5-year capital plan in here in draft was prepared under that assumption. So within this 5-year capital plan, you will see a number of recommendations that complement the scenario A that we've put forward. I can scroll down to show you more of the submission summary that's made. Of course, this is a submission. There's a much more robust documentation that goes in. You can see here it's submission summary. But what you'll notice is the absence of the Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. You heard me indicate earlier that that is not part of the submission summary because it already is considered a supported project by government. So it doesn't go on the submission summary for their consideration because it's already been moved ahead to business case. But what you'll see here is the complementary scenario A projects that go alongside the junior senior secondary concept at Lord Tweedsmuir. So you'll notice here the Lord Kelvin Elementary replacement project that I was referring to that would, sort of round out the necessary capital projects that we need to complete the reconfiguration across the district to that K-7, 8-12 model. You'll notice in here the conversion of the middle schools within both Glenbrook and Queensborough, acknowledging the fact that we would have to convert middle schools into elementary schools upon the district-wide reconfiguration. You'll notice, I know, Fraser River Middle School is absent, not because we're not configuring it, but because it's part of our business case alongside the Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. Those two things have to happen in tandem. Because it would necessitate Fraser River Middle School converting to an elementary school immediately because of the loss of Lord Tweedsmuir Elementary at the Lord Tweedsmuir site. These other two projects we will have to sort of ask for separately, and that's why I said the conversion of this K-7, 8-12 will take place over a number of years and not just in one fell swoop through one project. Gonna have to grow into ourselves. The Hume Park Elementary replacement project is to acknowledge that the Sapperton development, while not moving as fast as we initially thought from a number of years ago, will eventually happen. And so there is acknowledgement in the replacement and renovation category for that. For a number of years, we've also had the Hume Park Elementary seismic project that has been there for the ministry's consideration for approval. Again, that is to acknowledge that even though we've asked for a replacement on that site in the interim, there is a need to shore up that facility to be fully seismically upgraded. And so that remains on our list as it has for a number of years. And similarly, the site acquisition has been adjusted to complement the configuration and scenario A movement that the board has approved this evening. So we're still looking for site acquisitions within the Fraser Elementary zone. We're still looking for a recap power site acquisition to create permanent space as opposed to lease space at Columbia Square. And eventually, if we are looking for the full replacement of Hume Park Elementary, the notion that we might need additional property to create a larger facility or site or school there is under consideration as well. So again, those are longer term projects, but this is to alert the ministry of our potential needs in the future so that they have a bit of leeway and understanding of what the district's needs are as it compiles all those other requests with the 59 other districts in the province. So with that, I would be happy to answer questions, but there is also a recommendation here for your consideration to approve the major capital plan as presented.
Thank you so much. Trustees, questions? Comments? Trustee Russell?
I was confused about Tweedsmuir not still being in the 5 years, but I'm gonna defer to your system, which I'm sure makes sense. And then I just have some of the configurations in the eligible school site proposal to follow are different, but I can hold on to that.
Okay, maybe would you like me to re-explain why the Tweedsmuir project is not on the capital plan again? Would that maybe be helpful?
Yes.
So any projects that are supported to go to business case don't come onto the 5-year capital plan because they've already been supported. So once a project is supported, even though it hasn't been funded, the fact that it's been supported removes it off the list because the ministry has acknowledged its need and the district is working through a business case development. So that's why it's not sitting here, but you will recall back in April, we did have an approval to reopen the 26-27 capital plan and amend it to include a Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. That was to acknowledge that. So again, the sequencing, as we've indicated, has been somewhat not, it's sort of been out of sequence, but not been typical. Thank you. From what we typically would see. So that's why that's not reflected on here.
Sorry, I do have another question.
Sure.
Just we've had on here for quite a while site acquisition for school for I'm just wondering how realistic this is and, how realistic this is or should we be looking at a different long-term lease arrangement in a site that's long-term more appropriate?
Yeah, thanks for that. I haven't personally seen an alternate education school site be approved. Generally, they are unutilized or underutilized spaces districts have and then can offer these kinds of programs in them. However, how realistic it is versus what the desires are of the district are somewhat different. We continue to advocate for the fact that they should be providing students with purpose-built space as opposed to the amounts being funded out of operating dollars through a lease, which costs them $300,000 a year. Our hope is that we continue to advocate for this very important space. There is, as you will recall, Trustee Russell, some consultation we did where the community felt that being centrally located was an important factor in its current location. Not to say that we can't explore other options, but those would also be arranged through an operating lease, which would also come out of operating dollars. So our mechanism to ensure that we have purpose-built space would be to ask for it through these capital plan submissions until they're supported. Just for your perspective, moving a location to another site can be incredibly expensive because the tenant improvements to make the site usable for our instructional purposes can be quite costly. And again, those would be funded out of operational dollars. So there's some complexity to our next moves, but I think you'll recall we had secured the lease at Columbia Square for another 5 years. So there's some security there while we continue to advocate for purpose-built space.
Trustee Connolly?
Just on following on with Trustee Russell, I'm wondering, I know that we had explored when we were looking at building here, kind of if we could sneak in something on our own site. So I'm wondering if that might be more appealing to the ministry if we say we don't need to purchase land, have the land, we just need the school built.
Yeah, we tried that. So as part of the approval of Simcoe, as part of Simcoe, we
that out of the site acquisition, because the reality of that is to none.
Yeah, and to clarify, the site acquisition that you're seeing on there isn't to buy a piece of land and then build something on it. We were thinking we would buy a strata unit within a building, and then it becomes our owned space that we don't have to lease. But for clarity and for the public's benefit, as part of the Simcoe approval, we did try to put in a sort of a twofer arrangement where we look to build an alternate education site.
Is there a way to be a bit more creative, a bit more cost effective, and present this to the industry so that?
For sure.
I don't know how that would reflect that, like a modular build for recap or programs, which seems to be something they're leaning more towards, even for school builds now.
Yeah, no, we can certainly, if that's the board's direction, that would mean modifying this capital plan submission. We would be looking at it would be under a different category.
Just like we tried this for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And like Trustee Russell said, so I wondered perhaps a different approach for this year coming up and saying a modular build on land already or a recap.
We certainly could try. Yeah. I'm not sure how much cheaper it would be. We haven't unfortunately done the
but I don't know. So I mean that's worth exploring to me, even if not
absolutely.
this year, then maybe next year down the road go on board is here, but this has not been working. And it doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah,
so that's I'll throw that out there as the board. And the other piece was, are these reports as well as the eligible school site and we don't know if this is an amendment to the recommendation that we also share with the city. So we're operating in fact If we're not sharing this with the city as well.
This?
Here's what we, does
We-
it go to our city counterparts?
We share both the eligible school site proposal and we share with them the school site acquisition charge. Those two things are actually local government act required pieces of legislation. Yeah, no, they're aware. They also came to the long range facility plan consultation. I know that some staff members were present and they know that this document is coming. We've been in conversation.
Can I just ask,
For sure.
when the 5-year major capital plan needs to be at the ministry?
June 30th.
Okay, thank you. Trustee
Just
Russell?
in light of that, I just want to, I guess maybe I'll suggest, and given that the alternate programs have secured the 5-year lease, and I think the last thing those teachers want is a move, because the space is, all of it. Location is the right place. I have concerns around the environment around the location, the liquor store and the sex shop. I don't feel are, as we all know, not really ideal for students. But I think the modular idea is an interesting one, but I don't really want to hold up the capital plan. So given that, I wonder if we just leave that for consideration.
Sure, and we can, over the course of the next year, do some exploration, maybe get some estimates to see what that would cost. Because I would assume site prep and things, maybe 15 million is about right.
Yeah.
So we'll certainly look into it. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, good idea. Trustee Slint?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Jen, I just had a question. I'm just trying to make sure I understand this correctly. Like, I know Lord Kelvin's our #1 ask. Did you say something that's basically like, almost like that's the domino we need to fall to be able to do the reconfiguration? I'm sorry, I missed.
Yeah, so the reconfiguration isn't going to necessarily be instantaneous because different areas of growth are happening across the district. So I don't think it's necessarily a rip off the Band-Aid and just do. Yeah. Because you also see on the request things like renovations for certain middle schools and so on and so forth. So to the extent where we get support for these kinds of projects, we'll start to implement the reconfigurations, but move as quickly as we can in the confines that we're given. As an example for scenario A, the contemplated design we're undertaking with the 2300 school would be a junior and senior secondary. So that would cover grades 6 to 12. Yeah. So if you think about, if the district is trying to reconfigure to a K-7, 8 to 12, what that would eventually mean is you would grow into that high school, and then the 6 to 12s would be satisfied by an addition or replacement project at Lord Kelvin. So that's when you would achieve full scale reconfiguration. But you get pretty darn close through the new capital project with that kind of capacity at Lord Tweedsmuir. It's just you necessarily wouldn't be instantaneous. It would have to be done sort of thoughtfully through catchment boundary review, would take a number of time, a bunch of time to sort of implement. So it's complicated.
Okay, I'm going to read the recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 in Westminster approve the 2027-28 5-year major capital plan as presented for submission to the Ministry of Infrastructure. Seconded. All in favor? Thank you so much. Okay, on to 7E. We go back to Secretary Treasurer Ketchum for eligible school site proposal.
Thank you. Okay, so included in your packages is the eligible school site proposal. It's again a provision required under the Local Government Act. We have engaged quite thoughtfully with the City of New Westminster. They've come back with some edits, which is sort of reflective of the finalized document that you see within here. There's slight variation from this document from the previous years because numbers do change, and the board's plan in respect of our direction for long-range facility plan is also have some impacts as well. So within this document, what you'll notice is a couple of tables in the back here that sort of guide over a 10-year period the projected housing units that are anticipated, an estimation for school-aged yields, These have all again been reviewed by the City of New Westminster and our consultants to ensure some level of consistency, though this isn't going to be the identical document or level of growth that you would necessarily see in the long range facility plan. They are sort of different documents with different data points informing them. But what is the takeaway here is the anticipated eligible school site proposals that we are putting forward as supported in your long range facility plan and capital plan. And it is these sites and these values that we would then utilize the school site acquisition charges to collect funding from developers as a result of the growth that is happening in the City of New West to fund these eligible school site proposals. So you can see they're kind of all somewhat linked together in terms of long range facility plan, capital plan, and then these two ESSP and school site acquisition charges. So happy to answer any questions that you might have. We would be looking for your consideration of approving the eligible school site plan through the 26-27 ESSP resolution. Again, city staff have seen it. They are supportive of it. After your approval, it'll go to city council for their information and approval as well.
Questions? Great. I will read this over to you. Go ahead.
I have my hand up.
Oh, I didn't see. Okay. We'll go to trustee Andres first.
Thanks, Secretary Treasurer. I understand that the school site acquisition charges were originally meant to cover 35% of the cost of acquiring a school site. Do you have a rough percentage of how much these would actually cover?
So how much the school site acquisition charges would cover?
Yeah, they're supposed to cover 35%. Like that was the original.
Yeah, it's funny because you know the developments that we get or the funding we get don't typically reach the cost of land that exists today. So over the last couple of years, we're not even approach reaching the level of it takes because school site acquisition charges haven't changed in some 10 to 20 years. It's been a while since legislation was approved. It hasn't changed since. I know there's been a lot of advocacy, but there's been some years we've only collected a few $1,000s, sometimes maybe $500,000. So it's not a ton of money that comes to the school district from these school site acquisition charges, but the idea being that they are intended to cover up to 35% of an acquisition of land, which realistically is not generally attainable at the land prices.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Russell?
I am curious why the grade configuration and schedule E is different from the 5-year capital plan. So it's looking at an 8 to 12 alternate school, which is very interesting to me. And then the elementary schools is K-5.
Sorry, I think that's just typo. Apologies.
Don't worry.
Habit.
Maybe something else happening.
No, nothing else happening. We will modify that.
Trustee Fong?
Just on the trustee Andres, how much do we get annually from those? Or how much is sitting in our account?
It really varies. Like I've seen as little as $3,000 come in. I've sometimes seen $800,000 come in. It's sort of just, it's dependent on the cycle in which those school site acquisition charges are paid. But as I confirmed, they're never usually nearly enough to cover up to 35% of land purchase charges. So you're constantly just sort of collecting.
How much is sitting?
I'd have to get back to you. I wouldn't pretend to know at this very moment.
Okay. I'm going to read the recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 in Westminster approve the 2026-27 eligible school sites proposals for adoption of the 2026-27 resolution. Moved, seconded, and all in favor. Thank you so much. Okay. Next up is 7F, school site acquisition charge bylaw. And again, we go to Secretary Treasurer Ketchum.
Yes, and I can appreciate this is overwhelming and a lot of information to cover related to similar but different topics. So you heard me refer to the school site acquisition charge in the last report. And so again, this school site acquisition charge allows local government to collect funding from developers as a result of housing projects that they have to then fund the eligible school site proposals that both the city and the school district sort of agree are the needed land to acquire to satisfy our capacity needs. So school site acquisition charge bylaw here before you unfortunately doesn't bring forward any new information because the school site acquisition charge rates have been unchanged for well over a decade. So we are at max. We continue to collect these amounts as the city provides them to us as a result of its development. This comes to you in the form of a bylaw to adopt. And so for your consideration, happy to answer any questions, but this is the question for you if you would like to move forward with the bylaw for the school site acquisition charge for the upcoming year.
It'd be a bit cheeky, but maybe we should title the third column,
Yeah.
the last year that it
The
was
last
any
year.
different. Yeah, so Trustee Carlson.
So how do we increase the school site acquisition charge? What's that process?
I'll speak to that.
Sure.
We've done through BCSK, there's promotions through at that level, at our board table, for at least one motion over the last number of years. I'm not sure if the city has or not.
I don't think they have any authority. This is sort of done.
No, but I'm see.
Yeah.
So continue to advocate. Strong on this.
I would put it lots, I would never say no more.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay, so as Secretary, we have 3 readings for this one. So the first motion that we'll vote on is whether we will complete all 3 readings tonight, pending the outcome of that motion. We'll vote for the first and second readings, and then a third motion to vote for the third reading. So we'll start with that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, complete all 3 readings of the SSAC bylaw number 2026-1. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you. So we will go ahead with the 3 readings. First recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, approve first and second reading of the SSAC bylaw number 2026-1. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you. And finally, that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, approve third reading, reconsideration, and final adoption of the SSAC bylaw number 2026-1. Moved, seconded, and all in favor. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 17 is the, thank you, Secretary Treasurer, for all of that.
No, I'm saying it's still me and under G. You haven't seen the last of me.
I thought this was going to Associate Superintendent, but yeah, sorry. 7G, 2026-27 Board and Committee Schedule and Board Annual Work Plan.
Yes, thank you. So included in your packages is a proposed 2026-2027 board and committee schedule alongside a proposed board annual work plan. It, for your reference, indicates that there will be no open October board meeting. As you know, 2026 is the year where we're having municipal and trustee elections. And so the first immediate meeting after the elections will be the inaugural board meeting. The date is yet to be set. That generally is pending judicial recount, so on and so forth. We are told the earliest dates that we can have those. And so that is indicated as a TBD for now. What I can also highlight as well is the schedule looks very similar to it in the current year, where we have considerations of a number of coordinating committee meetings and committee of the wholes as well. We've indicated and planned around various statutory holidays, so on and so forth, and plan for grads. We don't have to update the board meeting like we have done in the past. If you continue to scroll down, we included a proposed annual work plan where staff will bring forward presentations for updates and information to the board. Happy to receive either any feedback or additional inclusions or deletions as you might see fit. And I'll turn it back over to the chair for your discussion and debate.
Thank you so much. Question from Trustee Andres online.
Yeah, thanks. It is called a board work plan, but as most of the items on here pertain to staff's actions, and I can see on page 75 of 89, it has as required, and it lays out trustee responsibilities, but I think it would be helpful for a document of this nature to include these not as kind of one-off items, but to have them as part of the calendar. And I think that would help guide future trustees in understanding their role a little bit better and what actions they could be taking at what times of year. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Andres. Are you suggesting that you want to table this until we can include those actions?
I'd love to hear from my fellow trustees.
Sure.
I think tabling it to September, I would be in favor of that. But again, I would love to hear from what others think.
Trustee Carlson.
I'm in agreement with that, and I think there's a few changes that we can work on together with the timing of some of these.
Trustee Connolly.
Motion to table.
Very good. Okay. All in favor? Sorry, to September. Yes. Yeah. Moved, seconded, and all in favor? Thank you. So we'll revisit this. Do we need to identify, can we work on this in CASA?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, awesome. We will move on to item 7H, school naming committee update, and we'll go to Associate Superintendent Lawler for this item.
Motion to table this report as well until September when we identify dates.
Dates
for future staff naming committee. School naming committee.
Okay, Trustee Russell?
I might be missing the concern, but I would like to hear the update, because I just I've been curious about where things stand for the name. So.
Yeah, there is no motion here. You want to table the report.
I think it's the next steps in timeline. I'm ready to share where things have proceeded to this point, but I guess the next steps in timeline would fall in line with the work plan. Right. So, yes, omitting those, even those pieces until we sort out the work plan.
Okay, so yep, that's clear. So we would like to review the report, but table. We would like to discuss the report up to but not including next steps and timing.
We can discuss those in CASA and that included revised.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that there would be no motion to table because there's no motion being brought forward. I think the idea behind it would be that we would revisit the timeline to include in the board work plan.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion for that?
I don't think so. No, I don't believe we do. Thank you. Are you good with that, Trustee Russell?
Yes, but are we also going to hear the report from the associate superintendent? Just where things.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry, procedurally, I don't know. I need a little bit of support.
Yeah, I think we can hear.
Okay. Over to you, Associate Superintendent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the purpose of this report is to give you all an update on how things have been going at Gibbon School meeting to date. So first of all, the background piece, I'll give you some main highlights. The school name committee was established as an advisory body to recommend names to Board of Education, a list of 3 potential names. And that would be to support the naming of the new elementary school that is going on the 800 block of miles. We are using a BIM procedure 541 to guide us through this process. And just to highlight that the understanding, of course, is that the final decision regarding the name of the school will rest with the Board of Education. We engaged with the community during the months of April and May to invite name submissions from staff, families, and the broader community. I'd like to acknowledge that we really appreciated the level of interest and the number of submissions that we received, because people gave their ideas. They gave through those ideas what they want to see in a school, what values they have, and what perspectives they have. Mm-hmm. So as anticipated, the names reflected a wide range of perspectives and ideas, and we were able to then break those into 3 main categories. So we saw names reflecting individuals, we saw place-based and geographical names, and also Indigenous names that were connected to Indigenous language, history, and the land. All submissions, as required by AP 541, are being treated as confidential. For the review process, we are reviewing submissions. We will evaluate submissions based on established criteria guided by AP 541. And we will engage in collaborative discussions and come to consensus on a list of 3 names, shortlist for the board. The guiding principles that we are using are that school names should be meaningful and respect and reflect local history, place, and distinguishing characteristics. There is a clear direction to generally avoid naming schools after individuals. The relationship between the school and the land is an important consideration, and there's strong commitment to honoring Indigenous history, language, and connections to the land through appropriate processes. So the committee worked on looking at the submissions, and the current status is we've had 2 meetings so far. Our first meeting held in April helped us to develop a plan for how we were going to gather submissions and what we were going to do following that. Then the second meeting that we held happened just recently on June 11th. At that time, we reviewed the submissions, and then in small groups, members of the committee worked to discuss and evaluate the options and try to start coming to a consensus. This is going to take a little bit of time because we have a very large number of submissions, around 130, and we are trying to get this down to a smaller list of 3. So we understand that this is going to take a few meetings, and we've started that work. So I will stop my update at that point because it now goes to next steps.
Thank you so much, Associate Superintendent. Any questions or comments? Trustee Carlson?
I'd just like to say quickly, thanks for the update. I am a member of the school naming committee and have been encouraged by the level of community engagement and particularly impressed with the name submissions received and the rationale behind them. So, thank you everybody for participating.
Thank you. Okay, and we will receive another report with some timing in September. Thank you. Our final item under reports from senior management, item 7I, is an update on school swimming lessons pilot. This is shared for information. It just provides some level of detail about what we are able to provide today in partnership with the city. Rick, I don't know if you want to come and speak to it or if there's any questions folks
Yeah, I'm honestly, whatever the board wishes, I'm happy to.
Why-
Sure.
Why don't you come forward? Yeah, maybe if you don't mind just giving us high-level details of what's happening and also touching on the future plans, that'd be great. Thank you.
So, earlier in the spring, I met with, Parks and Recreation Director Dean Gibson, and his deputy director at the time, Corinne Garrett. They expressed, a desire to kind of engage with that swim pilot conversation that we had, the previous spring and into the fall. I think the board did some advocacy as well to try and get those talks restarted, so I really appreciate that. That actually leads us to today, where I visited Moody Park Pool, and they were having their first swim lesson. The goal behind this pilot, it's not supposed to be accredited in any way. It's really just kind of a learn to swim basics, swim to survive. How they set it up, I really appreciated the engagement, the direction, the fun that the instructors were providing the students. The class that I watched, they had the first half was kind of a lesson where they had the one class split into two groups. They were grade 3 and 4 students. They were split to two groups. One group, very, very limited water and swim knowledge. They were all in life jackets, starting right from the basics. The other group, a bit more advanced, didn't have life jackets, and we're starting to do some more back and forth swimming activities. And then following their 30-minute lesson, they had a 30-minute free swim time while the second class came in to begin their lesson. So everything that in this sport of Principal Lord Kelvin organized with myself, with our city counterparts, just extremely smooth, well-oiled process that I think the kids and teachers really appreciated today. It's going to lead us into more conversations with the city in the late summer, early fall. I actually heard back from one of our counterparts this evening, and based on his schedule, he's hoping to re-engage in the fall, and that will center around a more robust swim program being hosted at Tamasout, most likely, starting in January or February. So that's the goal of both them and I believe us. Obviously, factors that need to be considered include cost, the logistics around transportation, time, which schools we're going to include, but those discussions will start early fall.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your work on this, Rick. Any questions, comments, Trustee Camillo?
Yeah, just echoing things. This is something else you've thrown onto your very, very good plate, and appreciate the efforts that you put into this, and appreciate the city as well stepping up and to make a go of this. So hopefully we will see something going forward in January 2027. So thank you for happening.
Great, thank you. Temporarily step back, I suppose, and then to come out. Trustee Russell.
Just wanted to also say I'm so thrilled to see this happening, and just thank you to all those involved. For your advocacy, everybody involved. I was heard on the news recently that with climate change and extreme heat, more people are swimming, swimming and drownings are on the rise. So like we're not a day too soon to be getting lessons under their thumbs.
And we also have a question from Trustee Andres for a comment online.
Oh yeah, I just met with the Lord Kelvin Pack yesterday, and they were just beyond pleased with this and just very excited. So even if admin where it was they still have hub coming in, and it's a very busy time for them, but very, very excited parents. So thanks for doing this.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. And the first item is a chair report. I apologize for the length. There is a lot happening and a lot that I wanted to share. So June is National Indigenous History Month. It's a time to recognize and celebrate the rich cultures, histories, languages, and contributions of First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples across Canada. And upcoming on June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. There's also a local celebration on Friday at Moody Park, and encourage all trustees if they are able to participate in that. As a school district, we're committed to supporting learning that helps students better understand the histories, experiences, and contributions of Indigenous people, and to creating spaces where Indigenous students, families, and staff feel welcomed, valued, and supported. I just wanted to highlight one example of this, which was the Indigenous graduation and transition ceremony that took place a couple weeks ago. It was a beautiful evening celebration for our students. Their accomplishments, their perseverance, their growth. And it was a celebration of identity, culture, and possibility. I'm hoping that the superintendent can pass along our appreciation to all those who planned and executed such a thoughtful and beautiful evening. June is also Pride Month, a time to recognize and celebrate the diversity that strengthens our schools and communities. It's an opportunity to honor the experiences, achievements, and contributions of 2S LGBTQIA+ people, while reflecting on the importance of creating spaces where everyone feels like they belong. At West Schools, fostering inclusive and caring learning environments is an ongoing commitment. Our goal is to ensure that every student, staff member, and family knows they will be welcomed, respected, and supported, and that their unique identities and perspectives enrich our community. As we mark Pride Month, we celebrate the values of acceptance, respect, and belonging that help our schools thrive. To our 2S LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and families, thank you for being an important part of our community. We are proud to stand with you. We continue the work that needs to be done at our SOGI committee level, and we are very pleased to share that signage welcoming gender creative and gender diverse community will be posted soon at the entrance of all washrooms in all of our facilities. And trustees, if you are interested in volunteering at the West Schools booth at Pride this year, please let me know or get in touch with Kai Smith directly. The Long Range Facilities Plan open house to share information about our Long Range Facilities Plan at the beginning of the month was very well attended. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, but as Trustee Andres pointed out earlier today, there is a ton of information available on our website about how we intend to address the capacity challenges that we have in New West, including some very specific questions and responses related to the plan that we have to intensify Lord Tweedsmuir. Trustees, I also wanted to share that I participated in a BCSTA board chair call last week. We received updates on next steps with respect to policy support from BCSTA. They've been very, very clear that they're trying to support boards rather than take decision-making away from boards. They want boards to make decisions and appreciate the local autonomy that elected boards have. They are also busy developing training modules and planning for the Fall Academy. The Fall Academy will be the first one after the election, and so there will be a significant amount of foundational content. I think Mark's going to be speaking about the budget submission that the BCSTA did recently, so I won't go into detail on that, but the BCSTA is going to be using this budget submission presentation as a launching off point to share stories about why the priorities were selected and how they impact students across the province. You will know that some provinces are removing elected boards, and this is not in the best interest of our education system. And reinforcing the belief in the value of trustees, the BCSTA has negotiated health and dental benefits. I suspect we're going to hear more about this from the Secretary Treasurer at an upcoming meeting, probably in the fall, not immediately. But this is really positive news. It's demonstrating value in boards and the role of trustees. To close, I just wanted to highlight a few achievements in addition to those shared by the superintendent earlier. First, I'm really pleased that we have stayed true to the areas of focus that are outlined in our strategic plan: student experience, caring and supportive systems, and building a sustainable organization. We've also made some significant progress towards resolving the capacity challenges that we face. And we've made some bold but necessary changes in order to strengthen our commitment to Indigenous education and reconciliation. These accomplishments remind us that meaningful progress is rarely the result of any one individual or group. It is achieved through respectful dialogue, collaboration, and a shared commitment to serving students. And with that, I want to thank my fellow trustees, district staff, our partners, and our broader community for the collective effort that has helped move this important work forward over the past year. And I'm happy to take any questions. Apologies for the length. That brings us to agenda item number 8.
New business,
7.
like immigration.
Yeah, I will ignore the number and I will ask Trustee Connolly to provide an update on immigration, refugees, and citizenship funding cuts.
Thank you. I will be very brief. The background is there, so I don't think I need to delve into it much more. I think it speaks for itself. I thought the numbers were actually in reverse order and that we were going down in numbers, especially when we see the fundings going down and then on second glance realize now they're going up and I was looking at it the wrong way. So it's quite shocking the number of students and families that are requiring these services, and to see that funding being cut is quite devastating for many people in our community, and it's putting a huge strain on these staff. Mosaic service workers who provide such an invaluable service to our families. So we did, Chair Sluice and I went and met with MP Jake Swatsky and expressed these concerns with him, and we're following that up with this motion to write a letter as well. So if there's any questions, I think Greg will be best placed. But wow, the infographic was speaks volumes. It really does. So thank you for putting that together, Greg.
Thank you, Trustee Connolly. Any questions or comments before I read the recommendation? Trustee Carlson?
So I wanted to thank you for bringing this forward and to focus on supporting you.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that the Board of Education of Westminster Schools write a letter to our Member of Parliament, Jake Sawatsky, urging you to advocate for number 1, the restoration and expansion of immigration, refugee, and citizenship funding for settlement services in schools. Number 2, broader eligibility criteria to ensure vulnerable populations, including refugees and temporary residents, are not excluded. And 3, stable long-term funding that reflects the actual demand and complexity of settlement work in school communities. Seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Get that letter out before the end of the year. Moving on, we are going to go back to Trustee Connolly. Who has a motion of prioritizing provincial funding for outdoor covered living spaces in British Columbia schools.
Thank you. Again, I will try and be brief on this because founder speaks to the motion, the recommendation. I will say that this came to me from an educator, a friend in the district, who pointed out that these spaces are well utilized. They can come in at their school, and just spoke to how they're seeing these covered learning spaces being used extensively in our district, and on so many levels, as are expressed in the background, or from learning to kind of adaptation, and shady spaces for students to be, who are in portables to be learning it. So I'll leave it at that.
Questions or comments before I read recommendation? Great. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 in Westminster write a letter to both the Minister of Education and Childcare and the Minister of Infrastructure, advocating for the Government of British Columbia to prioritize the creation of dedicated funding to the planning, construction, and maintenance of covered outdoor learning spaces in K-12 public schools, and requests that such funding be directed first to school districts experiencing significant crowding, rapid enrollment growth, or documented shortages of instructional space, and that the province include covered outdoor learning spaces as an eligible and prioritized component of future school capital planning and infrastructure investments across British Columbia. Seconded, and all in favor. Thank you. Okay,
I just want to make one, though, that I appreciate, like, I spoke with the secretary treasurer about this and revisiting the history of how we do get some of our covered learning spaces, and it was from COVID funds and the recommendation of staff to very wisely install some of these spaces, and they're being utilized extensively, and so much gratitude for that visionary perspective. So
thank you. All right, we are moving on to agenda item number 8, old business. There is none. And we are on to trustee reports. Are there any trustees interested in sharing tonight? Trustee Conlon?
I just want to say that I was, why is the word of me not elected? Nobody else ran for president. Thank you. Of the Metro branch for BCSTA.
Oh,
So we did shop around and put the word out, but here it's it again. So I think we've agreed it's kind of an interim role. And then I just want to say the June review was, so many wow moments at the high school. Looking forward to graduation. It's always such an exciting time. I know that we have some grad families in the room here with us, so that's going to be making it, from that much more special as we sit there and watch some of the release as well across the stage. I also want to point out that I have made some inquiries to the superintendent. I'm sorry, heads up, about some interim or stopgap measures for heat portables. I'm not sure if there are any updates along those lines regards to whether we use bring water and some of these portable spaces.
Yeah, those are things that we brought up with Matt and Bettina, and we'll continue talking about. The challenge isn't, it's the scalability of a lot of the things that you could do. Adding air conditioning to 54 portables, I think the cost was 2.5+ million. The things that we do need to be scalable and workable. Right now, we do things like fans that can place for intake and pushing air out. They run air in during the coolest parts of the evening to try and create cool space. Some of the other ideas like outside misters and so on are things that they're exploring to see if they're being installed cost effective, whether we're permitted to operate at all. And so definitely things that we'll explore and bring back. Of course.
Any other trustees interested in doing a report?
I'm looking online right now.
Trustee Andres?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a few pieces here. I just wanted to start off by thanking the leadership team for all of their work on the long range facilities plan. This has been a challenging project and also an exciting one. And I think finding that balance between the challenge and the opportunity is something that this team has done with grace. And I just want to highlight the June 1st meeting where many of our Tweeds parents came to express their concerns and speak from the heart about how this is impacting their families, and just the compassion and empathy that this was met with by our team. We're in really good hands, and we are really fortunate in New Westminster to have these people leading us, our Secretary Treasurer, Bettina Ketchum, our Superintendent, Mark Davidson, and all of the other people that you've met who are in the room with us or online, they do amazing work for us. And I just really want to give a shout out to that. In my other hat, I am also our provincial rep. So I just wanted to highlight that on June 5th, BCSTA President Tracy Loeffler presented to the Select Standing Committee on Finance and Government Services. And the presentation was some of the asks that we had voted for as a membership at the SDA-BC conference that we had, our annual general meeting in April. And she focused on three main priorities. And the first one was an increase in non-targeted funding for public education. And she just highlighted that, the shift in how public education is funded has been profound. It used to be 15% of the provincial budget, and it is now 7% of the provincial budget. And we base everything on a per pupil funding of $9,000, and it's just not an adequate amount of money to meet the needs of our district. And so she advocated for an increase in the $9,000 base per pupil rate. She also advocated for adequate funding for costs in childcare. We have opportunities and a responsibility to provide childcare options, and yet we aren't funded for many of these costs. And so we work with partners to do our best with this load, but we need greater funding if we want to implement the vision that is out there where no one has to wait for childcare in our schools. And finally, she and on behalf of the STA-BC advocated for increased funding for unfunded inflationary pressures. These are things you've heard around our board table before. But we can go from having a balanced budget one year and then the very next year have a $1.1 million deficit because of things just costing more. So these are all important developments, and it's part of the role of this board to support that action and make sure that's a strong functioning body that acts on our behalf and the behalf of all of the students in the province. Last two items here. Climate Action Working Group. So we had a good meeting. We celebrated our letter and the Monkey Rebels group and their presentation. And we decided to focus on policy, but we have, we need to make a decision on where the group is going to go. And so that was kind of our focus on future planning and what the intentions of the group should be. And to end my report, I want to congratulate my wife, Vanessa Wasno, on running and becoming co-chair of the Kite PAC. I am sure she will do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Trustee Carlson, I saw your hand.
I think we may make a motion to go past 9.
Oh, thank you. All in favor? Thank you.
There. Now,
Appreciate it.
I know it's a long evening, but I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize some of the incredible students, staff, and families that I had the privilege of spending time with. I've had the opportunity to attend the district track meet, Herbert Spencer production of the Lorax, the Army Cadet ceremony, the Indigenous graduation and transition ceremony, and the high school productions of Between the Lines and Emma Jr. And I was blown away by the talent, confidence, and the camaraderie on display at the junior due, as well as the entertainment of the last conductor. I appreciated the opportunity to attend the Hume Park Home Learners PAC meeting. I received a warm welcome and some very delicious homemade treats. And tomorrow I look forward to celebrating students from my ultimate program and also attending the NWSS dance show. And I'd like to acknowledge that transportation continues to be an issue for many Queensborough families. While recent funding was appreciated, I recognize that long-term solutions are still needed. And I remain committed to supporting ongoing advocacy on behalf of students and families in Queensborough. I'll also echo what others have said by sharing my appreciation to the district staff. You've shown such compassion and care while educating so many, the whole community, community regarding these challenging decisions in relation to the long-range facilities plan and the 5-year cap. So thank you with your care and your expertise. I'll go back to events now. I wish I could attend every event, but you know, other life gets in the way. But what stands out to me is the incredible care and the dedication shown by our staff, volunteers, families, and community members. So thank you for everything you do to create the opportunities for our students to shine, to learn, to grow, and to succeed. And I will end by wishing everybody a happy Pride Month and National Indigenous Peoples Month. And hope that everybody has a wonderful summer, takes time to make memories with family and friends. And please remember to give the young ones in your lives an extra hug.
Hey, thank you, trustees. Trustee Wilson.
Well, my schools, really briefly, I'll just say that it's always an honor to be at our PAC meetings. At Howie, there are 3 PAC retirees, Tanya, Ali, and Sean, who served that PAC for, I think there's their entire elementary careers. That's a big cohort, but they filled their executive. This is such a happy and lovely school. Ms. Houston is retiring after 30 years of teaching, and we were very excited when I was reading about the track meet being extended and participating. Track meet excitement continued at the Kite Pack, where they also now have their own proper uniforms for the school. Also very, very happy that it was able to be extended to include grade 4s. We had some good conversations at Kite Pack that I wanted to highlight. We talked about the long-range facilities plan. I was asked the question of how many years out to remove portables, which I was unable to answer, but we will now be able to. And I thought very reasonable and very thoughtful suggestion was made by the PAC that if we are now, best case scenario, still several years out from removing portables, would the district reconsider cooling for those portables? And I guess there's an electrical upgrade needed to the property in order to do so. So I said that I would bring that forward. And then I was also very disappointed and sad to learn that I know there was a lot of work advocating and trying to put things together for a walking school bus for the families where the early French program has been moved to Herbert Spencer. And I understand that has not come together, which is just, I think, very, very disappointing. I understand there were a number of complications there about cost. And so I just wanted to acknowledge, I guess, that because we have talked about it in the past. And then at Connaught Heights, just a busy, busy school, doing great stuff at the track meet and a lot of work on the math events with the schools. Oh, and then just lastly, I guess I know we have retirees in the district this year, and I believe the district celebration did not go ahead, but I would love to know who is retiring later on when we get a chance to send that around, and just the board could send our congratulations to make sure we have done.
Thank you, Trustee Russell. Okay, we are now at question period. So as per policy 7.1 on public participation, the board welcomes and provides for public participation by members of the community. The board believes this is essential for improving decision-making and creating more inclusive, effective, and sustainable outcomes. The board expects all persons attending its meetings to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Members of the public may ask a question and seek clarity on matters that arose during the board meeting. The time limit for comments and questions will be 3 minutes, excluding any responses to questions from trustees. Are there any folks, I'll go online first, that wish to participate in question period? Not seeing any hands raised. I will ask in the room if there are folks with questions. Please come forward. To introduce yourself and then we'll start the time.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Trump, and I'm here on behalf of EFI. So as Trustee Maya mentioned, unfortunately, we did receive the disappointing news that there will be no walking school bus from downtown Decatur to Herbert Spencer this year. So the Society of Children and Youth have decided that there's a lack of funding, and there's also some difficulty aligning sensitive shifts. But the big concern right now that is that they noted that the primary fund of the city currently cannot guarantee a continuation of the walking school bus fund beyond this year due to upcoming municipal election and possibility of change in the direction of council. So in light of that, we are trying to make a last appeal to the board here. We're asking the district to consider supporting even partially the program for the residential walking school bus for next year, as many of the parents here are counting on this option, and the continued service for one additional year will really ease the transitions as we're exploring longer term solutions.
Thank you so much, Junior. Staff, any comment?
No, I understand the challenge. It's hard, isn't it? Because the programs of choice administrative procedure is clear that transportation support is not provided for programs of choice. We acknowledge the challenge of having moved the program. That eventuality was signaled long before in the programs of choice review. So now that the board can direct that support be provided, but you need to understand you have a procedure in place already. And the decision was taken referring to that procedures.
Yeah. Thank you. Trustee Cohen?
I thought it was that we couldn't find a route that was just a finding issue. I thought it was also a route issue.
But I didn't see the letter, but.
Bettina would know better.
Yeah, it was in part somewhat due to funding, but they were trying to combine the existing route for Kakite to capture a route to Herbert Spencer. I think there was a desire by the city to maintain the two walking school bus routes already allocated to that catchment and to that school. And so the Walking School Bus Society was not able to create a route that did both those things in an efficient way and one that could align with a route that was considered safe and efficient. That was sort of the rationale that was provided to us. I think is consistent with the email you received.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure that I have anything more to add.
I know this is not actually an agenda item, but I feel like there are a number of reasons out there. When the city funding is the one that I hadn't heard. There's our own AP, which I understand. And I just wonder if the chair would be willing to do some follow-up, at least with the city, and the society, just to clarify the barriers and if there is forward understanding. I know quite a bit of work has been done, but
Absolutely. Going to add that to my list right now. So Junior, I will follow up with city and the society just to clarify barriers and pending that conversation, we'll see about next steps. Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Liz Faber. I am coming today as someone who works a day job around supporting communities to strengthen their climate resilience. And I was really heartened to hear the focus and intent to have climate resilient and healthy schools. But however, as we know right now, in periods when it is really hot, the portables are extremely hot for students and staff and overbearing conditions. And we saw a student actually having to go to emergency to receive treatment for heat stress. And so I had a question or a couple of questions for you following on that. So we know that portables are meant to be temporary. We know that treatment will take some time to come online. So the portables are going to be there for some time. So is there a possibility for the board to re-advocate for the $2.5 to $3 million that it would cost to outfit these portables so that there are the necessary cooling measures and ensuring that kids are not going to hospital because they've gone to school. None of us really want to see that, but also more immediately was really heartening to hear about the immediate measures as well, because this is quite urgent. We're seeing it increasingly hot years. The last 2 years have been the hottest ever, and we will be seeing that going forward as well. So great to hear about the misting post, as well as the misting station, thank you, as well as the heat pumps or filtering in cold air into the system. But are there also other possibilities around even installing portable air conditioners? I understand that there's issues around the grid and the electricity loads that portables can receive and that the schools can receive. But this isn't, it isn't urgent measure. It is an emergency in cases when it is the very hot days. And can we even run, have the electricians looked at possibilities to run through cords into the schools that would be well covered, so they wouldn't be tripping hazard. I'm just, the question is has there been assessments that have been done to really look at the extent of the immediate measures that can be implemented? Well, it might be too late for this year, certainly planning ahead for next year, potentially in fall even, where we can put those forward as well, in addition to still go back to the province to ask for more sustainable long-term funding. Thank you.
Please.
So there are very real restrictions on the kinds of air conditioners you can put in classrooms, like the level of CSA approval and all those kinds of things. The issue isn't with the power is in the building proper, it's whether or not there's power available to the whole of the site. And then making sure that you get that power to each of those portables to make it go. Here's the giant challenge that this board has heard since before I became superintendent. School districts like ours that are well over utilized, so 125%, 123% utilization, are given zero funding for the cost of portables. So every portable we buy between $250,000 to $300,000 to purchase and place comes out of instruction dollars. If we were to then take from instruction dollars to put cooling in all of them at another $2.5 or $3 million, you're really talking about, if you're doing it all in one fell swoop, you'd be talking not about a few layoffs to make it work. It would be dozens approaching 60 or 70. In terms of advocacy, I think that's the avenue available, because the purse strings are held by the province, and we're not given funding in order to first of all buy them and place them, and then put cooling in, or do grid upgrades in order to make it cost efficient. So, and I think the board has, I know, advocated for that funding even since I've been here. it is a really hard issue every year this time. The shoulder seasons are very challenging.
If someone at the table is willing to go back and work on something, I'm sure there would be support, but, yeah. Thank you for bringing this.
Yeah, I recognize the school district doesn't have the money, but definitely, there's continued advocacy. Appreciate you've advocated previously, but this is an ongoing and going to be increasingly, so,
Yeah, you bet.
great, thank you.
Okay. Yes, please.
Oh, don't we? I'll sing it.
We
already
made the motion.
I'll show you. I'm Jennifer Vandergrim, co-chair of the district PAC. Just a few comments or requests that have come forward. We have our final meeting of the year on Thursday night, and a couple kids are going to present to us from school, which so looking forward to that. Just a few things that came up regarding the super campus. We're just looking to help parents with communication and understanding. So as you develop this business case for Path A, we're just asking as much as you can, if you can please share with parents the timelines for the catchment area adjustments and grade reconfigurations. We understand you will not have a permanent plan. However, parents would like your most educated estimate to try and alleviate a bit of anxiety around that. In addition, we would like to understand how the grade 6 to 12 super campus will be designed to ensure the younger kids feel safe and not overwhelmed with the older kids on the same grounds or in the same buildings. So just some clarity when that becomes available. And with regards to the literacy and numeracy assessments, we were just wondering how these results will be given to parents, or will this be in the form of like a parent-teacher meeting and they can give a summary and kind of some understanding of their kids, what your needs are in that. And then lastly, it's come up in our meetings too. We would like to encourage you to return these practitioner hours every month, either be an MD or an NP. We're not picky. This was a well-used resource, and both parents and students like to see it.
I wonder if what was the second to last?
Social literacy.
Yeah.
Typically, a screen is used by the teacher to help them adjust their programming. It's not shared as a reporting tool. What they would do is sit with the family and say, so here are some of the choices I've made in my instructional practice, and here's the data that I haven't considered. But they wouldn't just send it home because it really doesn't provide.
Yeah, not sending it home per se, but just you know, you have parent teacher interviews, especially with these younger grades, when parents actually show up. And if your kid's being screened, then admittedly, I don't go to the MDUSS 5-minute block or 5 seconds or whatever they are.
Yeah.
It's just helpful to understand that the screening's being done. Like we're here and hear this presentation, but then we try and get the information out to parents, and it's just consider a way to kind of get that information out.
It's probably a good at the start of the year, and then when a lot of these screenings are happening, feel free to ask about them. Absolutely.
And then also, I just wanted to say kudos and thank you to Kipic on Loss. We appreciate as parents that you actually use that avenue of email to just shoot that out. I think I saw it go online very quickly after that. So. Thanks.
Okay. Final call for questions. Trustees.
One question quickly. I should have brought up sooner. Just the students that were injured at Cultus Lake. Just wanted to know if you reached out to their board chair and just said, I couldn't look at anything, but did we have any school trips that were meant to, because I know they're closed, so I don't know if it's interrupting your kids are getting the plan or anything. Primarily, you know, the drops are like those.
Mhm.
It's very, very scary.
For sure.
Okay, we're at agenda item number 11, notice of meetings. Will not meet again until September, and the date is to be determined, but the last Tuesday of September. And finally, we have a reporting out from in camera, noting a record of the May 25th in camera meeting. And we are at adjournment. Do you have a motion? Seconded, all in favor. Thank you, trustees. Have a great summer.
An hour.